The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
What's up, everybody? This is Young Lion King Carl Fredericks, and you're listening to Keepin It Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we're discussing the latest Road to New Beginning shows, previewing the New Beginning in Nagoya, answering your questions, and covering all the latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing to the Social Suplex Podcast Network or to Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts and columns over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tee store, ProWrestlingTees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWWorld.com, with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit njpwext.us today for details. Young boy, how you doing, man?
I am hanging in there, man. How are you doing?
Doing good, man. Just, getting through these Road to New Beginning shows. Finally on the way to Nagoya this weekend.
Yeah, for the first time since this tour, I don't feel like I'm getting through them. I feel like I'm actually enjoying these shows finally.
Yeah, that especially these last 3 shows have been very enjoyable. There've been a lot of interesting angles. I've been mixing some things up to really, make the feuds going.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had a lot of story progression, feud building, just a lot of little morsels that you can kind of stick your teeth into. And one thing I like about that, I was on a group, one of those, I don't know, I'm not technologically advanced, so what are they? They're like Facebook groups or whatever?
Yeah, Facebook groups, yeah.
Yeah, I was in one of those groups and someone was asking about, should they watch the Road 2 shows? And it always seems about this time of the year, right after Wrestle Kingdom, you get a lot of people that are like, I want to get into New Japan. How do I do that? Should I be watching these shows? So, they all seem pretty repetitive. And, we kind of give them the standard answer, it's not necessary, but you learn a lot. You get a lot out of it. The wrestling's good. But, sometimes you tell people that, and not all Road 2 tours are created equal.
Yeah.
Some of them are literally just rehashed matches over and over again with very little, seasoning, very little, pepper thrown on there. There's not a lot to flavor the shit. But, this one, I think because they really prolonged the tour with the fact that there is no New Beginning, or there is no Fantastica Mania, and had to kind of stretch it out. They've done a lot of really cool, just a lot of really cool little things along the way to where, if that young gentleman that I was chatting with decided to watch, I don't look like such an idiot telling them that there's some worthwhile stuff there, because there actually is this time.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into it. We got 3 Road 2 shows to talk about. We'll kind of go over the results, talk about any big story elements, any results there, and then we'll go into New Beginning in Nagoya, which is a Saturday, give our official preview and predictions for that.
Okay, let's do that.
So January 23rd, we had the first Road to New Beginning show here for this past week. Opened up, we had Suzuki-gun, team of Doki, Minoru Suzuki, defeating the world-class tag team, Gato and Jado. Doki getting the big win here.
Yeah, he seems to kind of be on a little bit of a hot streak, huh?
Yeah. Very interesting here. We've been seeing this kind of Bullet Club, Suzuki-Gun rivalry really spilling off of the junior tag title feud and the heavyweight tag title feud. So interesting to see it kind of get down to this level with, Gato and Jado in there. And obviously the main story element here is, they're still kind of been teasing a Jado Doki singles match, as well as a story of Gato just kind of being, depressed, despondent towards Jay White leaving.
Well, a lot to kind of unravel there with the Doki thing. One thing I'd like to point out, so they've given some focus on him recently. He picked up a couple wins during the Best of the Super Juniors, and then there's that big never open weight 6-man tag team match where he was sort of the focal point. But those are kind of what you call the beginning of a push, and then eventually that push either land somewhere or it doesn't,
Right.
And, if a push is successful, it elevates you. And I think we're at the point where Doki's quote unquote push is halted for now. And we're kind of figuring out where he is in the pecking order. And where he is he's in tag matches with the leader of his crew. And he's able to pick up the win against guys like Gato and Jado. Now, that might not seem like a lot to most people, but 6 months ago, there's no way Doki would have been beating Gato or Jado. He would have been the guy assisting Minoru Suzuki to pick up these wins.
That's exactly what I thought about when I was watching Saturday. I was like, oh, wow, like this is the elevation, believe it or not. Because, yeah, like you mentioned, 6 months ago, this same exact tag match would happen. You best believe we're getting a Gato clutch or Jado doing something, the rope assisted DDT to get the pin here on Doki.
Yeah, either Doki was eating the pinfall or Suzuki was getting the win. You wouldn't have thought Doki'd be the guy picking up the pinfall. And I think we're at the point where Doki is right on par with, like, let's say, Tohinare.
Yeah.
Someone who he's not going to beat all the, the upper guys. He's still lower card.
Right.
But
he's not beating Hiromu tomorrow.
Right. He's not going to beat Hiromu or anything like that, but he is going to beat the Lions and he's going to beat some of the older talent, and he's going to get showcased in matches and be given opportunities. And that's where they see Doki, which means this whole thing where Doki was fighting, to never go back to the slums of Tijuana, I think it's successful. I think he's here to stay.
Yeah, that man probably got him some Obari money, got that contract locked in. So interesting stuff there. And as throughout the weekend, we continue to see this feud with Bullet Club and Suzuki-Gun kind of continue. Next match of the night, we had
a question. Is today the 26th?
Yeah.
On your rundown, sir.
Hold on. You know what? My rundown's not refreshed. Hold on. Go ahead and read that question while I get my together.
Just to be clear, on air, team meeting, we're reviewing the 23rd Road to the Beginning.
Yeah, I refreshed my doc for whatever reason. It didn't update, but yeah.
Okay, so we have a question from Viking Pain. He asked, we've talked about babyface Jay White, but what about a babyface Minoru Suzuki?
Yeah, I think we've kind of talked about this before with Suzuki and people kind of asking about Suzuki-Gun, and I just feel like Minoru Suzuki is just one of those characters that it's never going to be a quote-unquote full-on babyface. He might be in situations where you want to cheer him over the guy that he's going against, or you just have so much respect for him that you like him, but he's still going to do the same, crazy wild man tactics. He's still going to beat up young lions, grab the chair, break the rules.
Well, devil's advocate, I don't know. I can't. Obviously, we're not talking to Viking Pain, but I could imagine maybe he's saying, well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying he still does all that stuff, but he's a babyface a la Steve Austin, you know?
Yeah.
And, I mean, I think it's kind of semantics. Like, my whole thinking is, I think he already is almost babyface. And that might contradict some things I've said on the show previously, where I don't think that they're going to go full baby faces. I just can't see Suzuki-Gun as a whole entire collective unit ever collectively being, baby faces. Right. I think that they will always be heel leaning, whether they're tweeners or whether they're full-fledged heels. But I mean, at this point, Minoru Suzuki's getting to that status, and probably has been for a while now, where like he's not going to get booed hardly unless he does something really, really bad.
Yeah. So, yeah, just
I think it's kind of semantics. I think the real question is, will the company ever get behind them as a quote unquote tweener / babyface group and really push that narrative? Will they book them that way? Are we going to see a full-fledged Empire versus Suzuki-gun, tour or, feud or something like that, which I don't see that happening, anytime soon.
Right. I mean, even this weekend, when we've seen them against Bullet Club, then they kind of switched towards the end, had them going against Hantai guys. So it's like, for whatever reason, they don't fully see them quite in that role yet. Yes, they have this huge Bullet Club, but they still see them more on the heel-leaning side.
Yeah, and I know his question is specifically about Suzuki, but I feel like as the leader, you can't really have that discussion without talking about both aspects of it. But I mean, Suzuki's kind of like how Liger was towards the end of his career. Like, he travels the world, he gets cheered, people do the Kaze Ninare, he's got all these spots that people love. Like, he's just a beloved guy at this point. Like, it's, I mean, who would dare to boo Minoru Suzuki,
Right. So moving on to the next matchup now, we had the Chaos team of Goto, Okada, and Yoshihashi defeating the Bullet Club team of Dick Togo, Evil, and Yujiro Takahashi. I don't really think there's a lot story elements here. We're continuing to see just the build-up for an eventual Okada-Evil match. Not sure if that's going to happen at Castle Attack or if that's going to be a anniversary show match or a New Japan Cup match, but they're still building that up.
The one thing I will say, Okada's out there with his buddies. He's out there with, Goto, Yoshihashi, Ishii. And they're just having fun.
Yeah.
And, the Bullet Club guys are too. I could definitely see where people might criticize the direction and, all that sort of thing. But, I mean, there's a difference between serious feud Okada going up against Yujiro Takahashi or going up against Gedo, all of 2020 versus six-man multi-mans where they're doing, cheap poses and funny spots and
the little drum spot thing they do.
Yeah, they're getting in there, they're having fun, they're getting out. I mean, these are non-offensive matches, and they fulfill exactly what they're supposed to be, which is a holdover till the next tour. Because right now, Okada doesn't have much going on, but kind of like Naito, so they're kind of in the same similar vein right now.
Yeah. So the next matchup, we had the United Empire. We had Great O'Khan and Will Ospreay. They defeated Tenkoji by disqualification. So we know DQs are very rare in New Japan. Normally the refs kind of let things fly, but these teams here, it's a hot, heated feud here, going at each other with chairs, brawling all over the place, and Tenzan just taking it to the Great O'Khan and wrecked his back up with that chair, which finally led Kento Sato just call for the DQ here.
This is different, man. This is something that we haven't seen too much of in New Japan in recent years. Every now and again we'll see like a heated feud that have segments and spots and interferences, things like that. But very rarely does just get into all out, like this can't be contained. We can't have straight standard matches. And that's what we're getting here. I mean, it's kind of funny. It like harkens back a little bit to like some of the stuff we got with Liger and Suzuki a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. Harkens back to even like what we're getting with Jericho and Omega. This is super throwback, very 1980s, Southern Memphis territory, like type of stuff we're seeing here. And these guys are just going at it with weapons, going at it with chairs and tables, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, I love this. We complain all the time where you see, quote unquote blood feuds where somebody gets taken out and then they come back and then they start the match with a lockup. It's like, what are you doing? And that's the exact opposite we got here. Like, they took Tenzan out. They took out Kojima's best friend, his longtime tag team partner. These guys are coming for a vengeance. They're not, going to lock up. They're going to fight. They're going to, throw the ref out the ring. They're going to throw him against the guardrail, use the chairs, and that's what we saw here. And it was great. A lot of intensity. And I love the DQ finish here. I know normally we might be against DQ finishes in other promotions and other products, maybe just in wrestling in general. But I like the DQ here because obviously in a straight up tag, United Empire is probably getting the win here. But we need to keep Tenzan and Kojima strong going into Nagoya. So you don't really want to beat either of those guys here in this tag match. So this DQ allows neither guys on either side to get pinned, and then you need to heat this feud up.
Well, wrestling is storytelling, and so sometimes when you watch a match divorced from the story itself, you lose some of the context. So someone could be not watching the product, and then they're like, well, what were the results here? And they're like, oh, there was a DQ in this 11-minute match. I'm a skip. I'm not going to watch that, but that's divorced from all the context of what's going on. But for people that are watching this and understand the feud, understand the stretcher job, all the angles, all the backstage, commentary, and even the stuff they're doing on social media, and then they see like the actual heat. This is the kind of heat that I'm here for. Not that Vince McMahon go away heat. I'm here for this Jerry Lawler, Jeff Jarrett, Bill Dundee heat. This kind of shit. I love it. This feels like something from the Mid-South Coliseum or something on a Monday night. It's really great.
Yeah, you can even see like the fans are just kind of in shock in the way that in the rage that Kojima and Tenzan are in. And like these guys have been faces, they're part of Hantai, they're lovable New Japan dads, and like a nerve has been struck with them, and it's like a completely different guys here. The
last time I can remember a truly heated, significant dad feud was when Shibata was, being disrespectful and going through the third generation during his never title reign back in 2015, 2016, something like that.
2016.
The funny thing here is so Tenzan in the last 2 or 3 years has only had 3 singles matches. I went through Cage Match. I looked at Kojima. He hasn't had a singles win over someone in New Japan that wasn't a Lion since he beat Sonata in the 2017 G1. So it's been 3 or 4 years since the last time Tenzan and Kojima were truly actually relevant. Yeah, they've had some, they throw him a bone here or there. They throw him a tournament. They throw him a showcase singles match here or there. But very rarely is there any true investment in what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is different. This is you got these young upstarts, these snot-nosed, kids who think they know what the business is all about, and Daddy Tenzan and Kojima are gonna whip him into shape and teach him a lesson.
Take him to the learning tree.
Yeah, bro. This is I remember growing up, horrendous match, but I remember watching the 1987 Starrcade. And the whole time they're telling the story of Dusty Rhodes is this old man, but he's going to teach a lesson to this young Lex Luger. And I always love that story, the teacher and the student. And that's kind of what's happening here. And it's kind of funny in New Japan. It doesn't take much to get into feud of the year territory because it's not that much unless you have a series of really great matches. You can kind of bypass that by just having really great segments, and that already right now this is my 2021 feud of the year.
Yeah, is feud of the year. We can throw some of these down for angle of the year.
Yeah, it's just, and we didn't get a lot of that last year. It was just tournament, and these guys are going out there and battering each other with chairs, and I love it.
Yeah, this was awesome. And so we'll cover more of what happened there in the next 2 shows.
Well, one thing too, before we move on, this is something you brought up online, it was a brilliant idea to have the United Empire win by DQ.
Yeah.
Because of the protection.
Yeah. And so, by DQ, you protect Kojima and Tenzan. They don't have to eat a loss. Obviously, you protect Okan and Ospreay. You don't want them eating a loss. But at the same time, this feud's all about getting the Empire over. And so you put a win in the win column for the Empire here. And so it just works out all around. I really enjoyed it.
You needed to find a way to make Tenzan and Kojima look strong after having, been taken out at New Year's Dash. So this was the perfect way to do that. It's they're like, fuck these rules. We're going to take you out with these chairs. Hold this.
It makes them look a threat.
Yeah, and they don't in they don't pick up a W or anything like that, but they pick up the moral victory, and they're the
Right.
ones who are seen standing tall. So like, it's just like this is the kind of Gato booking I like.
Yeah, you had the United Empire, even though they won by DQ, they're kind of fleeing with their tails stuck between their legs, and Tenkoji standing strong.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then we move on to the semi-main event. We have the Josh Smith special here, the elimination match, pinfall, submission, DQ, over-the-top rope elimination. We had Golden Ace teaming up with Master Wato, Sho, and Tomioka Hanma to defeat the LIJ team of Bushi, Hiromu Takahashi, Sanada, Shingo, and Tetsuya Naito.
Yeah, it was funny watching this. We're like about a year out from the US New Beginning tours, literally like just about a year ago.
Yeah.
And we saw one of these matches here in St. Pete, which ended with Tanahashi being the sole survivor against the Bullet Club. And I was like, oh, this is feeling kind of reminiscent, which was pretty cool. But I thought this match was very, very fun. I didn't think it was like the greatest elimination match they ever had, but it told the story it needed to tell, and it told some stories that you didn't think you wanted, but you got anyways, and it was so enjoyable when it was all said and done.
Yeah, also the big thing here, the final two, Naito and Hanma. We've been seeing these guys on the opposite sides for this whole road to the New Beginning tour. And a lot of questions, what's going on with these two. And, you would think that maybe it would come down to maybe Tanahashi and Shingo or Hiromu and Sho, Sanada and Bushi, these guys that have these big title feuds coming up. But they kind of got those guys out, and it came down to Naito and Hanma. And Hanma Mania is running wild. Hanma eliminated Tetsuya Naito to get the win for the Hantai team.
They did a really good job at the end, too, just like constantly teasing that Naito was going to get this goon out of here, and he just kept struggling to do it. And I was sitting there watching this, and I was like, oh my God, if Hanma eliminates this man, I swear. And then when he finally did it and he was able to, to get Naito out of the ring and over the top rope and everything, I was like, and everyone just went crazy. I was like, this is excellent. This is such an enjoyable show already. Like, this is like New Beginning Junior, basically.
Yeah. When it got down to Naito and Hanma, I kind of looked at my phone for a little bit. I was like, oh, yeah, Naito's going to, eliminate this geek pretty easily. LIJ is going to get the win. And then I look up, I keep seeing Hanma fight back. I'm like, what is going on here? And then Hanma eventually gets the elimination. And I had tweeted out earlier making a joke because Bushi had eliminated Bushi and Sanada. And I was like, well, where's Bushi's double title match? But now Hanma has eliminated one of the last double champions. Where's Hanma's double title match? I think Castle.
You don't get a title shot for beating the man who used to be the man. You got to he's got to take out Ibushi, like Bushi did.
Gotcha.
Or he could go after Bushi to get his number one spot.
We have a number one contenders with Bushi versus Hanma at a Castle Attack.
Does that not sound like some universe mode shit?
Yeah, that sounds like Fire Pro put random, and it's like, all right, here we go.
We had a question from WRPLA. They asked, hey guys, it's been an age since I asked a question. I struggled to summon the strength to keep up with New Japan in the back half of last year with COVID running wild across the UK, like Hanma Mania, making work crazy and the best forgotten summer of evil souring things for me. But I got back on board with Wrestle Kingdom, and I'm catching up on things with the help of New Japan World and running through all episodes of your show as I go. Nice. Speaking of Hanma, after the Ota show elimination match and the great finish, are they actually going to do something with him and Naito? Will this be a first-round New Japan Cup match or something for a small show before then? Or was this just being thrown a bone, for a feel-good moment on a semi-prominent Road to shows? These are the big issues. Naito super tranquilo about it in the post-match promo, literally saying the loss doesn't matter. I don't care about him. And then making fun of Hanma after the tag match the next two nights. Does he secretly fear the master of the Kokeshi? Thanks for the podcast.
Yeah, glad to have Reddit user WRPLA101 back listening, and thanks for the question. Yeah, with Naito and Hanma, it seems very weird. Obviously Naito doesn't really have anything going on right now for a big feud, and why throw away a potential big money match if you're not ready for it or for a smaller show. So, I think, Castle Attack is Osaka Joe Hall. I'm assuming that there's probably going to be a lot of title matches on that show. So if you already have, so let's say, a double title match, a junior title match, maybe a tag or never title match, at the top of the card, the opening, you could do like a Naito versus Hanma, opening match, second match on the card if Naito's not going to be in anything big. And it's not like you're blowing a big match and you already have other big matches on the card that you can draw with, and then you're saving Naito for bigger feuds down the line.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it could go any which way. I know that's sort of a non-committal answer, but I mean, given the stature of who's involved here, I mean, it's Tomoaki Hanma. So, I mean, there's not a lot of prerequisite that they have to do anything in particular. I mean, I like some of these ideas. I'm not opposed to it being on the Castle Attack show. I'm not opposed to it being a first round New Japan Cup match, although that seems like it might be too much of a gimme for Naito unless you want to tell a story where Hanma has his number and you pull the shock upset. That would definitely be something.
That'd be wild.
But I don't think there's anything that's necessary for them to have any matches besides this. This is one of the few things I feel like has been missing from New Japan in the last few years. A lot of people have been talking about what is or isn't New Japan, and people, harken back to the quality days of the Bullet Club and yada, yada, yada. But for me, it's some of these smaller things, some of these in between Road 2 type of feuds that I'm not saying that they're throwaways, but they enrich the lore of the product, stuff like Yano and Suzuki. Yano has Suzuki's number. It's just sort of this little insidery ongoing thing that people that know about it, but people that don't know about it, they're looking on the inside from or from the outside being what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
That's how I feel like Hanma and Naito is. And I would love for Hanma and Naito to maybe every now and again just lock it up for no fucking reason except for old country beef.
Right.
I love that sort of stuff.
Yeah, just random LIJ versus Hantai just throughout the year. And if you've been watching, you would know this whole kind of story that's been happening through the whole year.
One thing though, Hanma, these nights are taking a toll on him. He's having trouble moving.
Yeah.
He looked okay in this match, but then the next night, rough.
Yeah, by the Monday night show, yeah, he was walking pretty stiff there.
We got 2 more questions on this topic, which is pretty funny. So a lot of people into this.
Yeah. So Reddit user DunDiesel86 says, I couldn't help but mark out when Hanma hit that clothesline on Naito over the top rope to get the win for his team. What do you guys think that moment meant to Hanma? The look of joy on his teammates' faces led me to believe that it was special. Hanma, next double champ.
I started laughing because I was reading ahead. I'm like, what? I'm all with this until he says Hanma next double champ. Yeah, I mean, I think the whole thing with Tomoaki Hanma is I don't think they've done anything of any sort of real achievement for him at all since he returned from, what should have been a paralyzing injury. He never should have even come back to wrestling. And, he's kind of been relegated. I mean, there's a time where he wasn't even up to snuff to be in, say, tag league.
Right.
So, I mean, he's had no title opportunity. He might have been in a 6-man never possibly or something like that, but no title opportunities, no major feuds, nothing. I mean, I remember last year when he had that match with Hiromu Takahashi, that I loved that match. I thought it was out of this world, for him, very good. I couldn't believe it. So for him to win a elimination match over the former double champion and the biggest star in the company, I mean, I think it's just sort of a little bit of an attaboy,
Yeah, and we talk about, normally around this time we've been seeing retirements. Last year we saw Tagatore retire, we saw Nakanishi retire. We see a lot of retirement shows around this time of the year, and I'm not saying Hanma's going to retire now, but it could be as one of the. We're seeing a lot of guys like Hanma, Tenzan, Kojima kind of getting some shine right now. You got to think of one of these guys are next up on the retirement list.
Yeah, I agree.
So next question here from Kevin from DC. He says, I believe that a Naito versus Hanma special singles match would be at the very least entertaining and probably even good to great. We are very far removed from 2015 lovable loser Hanma, who can get with the likes of Katsuyori Shibata and Tomohiro Ishii. However, if the stars align, Hanma Mania could certainly run wild on you, brothers. Now, if you could please piss all over this opinion, I'd greatly appreciate it.
I mean, good to great is like, could it happen? Absolutely. But is it likely in a single scenario? I'm not so sure. I think this feud is greatly helped out by the fact that it is mostly tag teams and it is, certain, tried and true sequences that work for them. And I think the main reason I feel that way is because they kind of gave the next night for the Monday show, they gave Hanma a kind of prominent spot against Naito in one of the tag matches, and like it was rough. So I'm not too confident that they'd have a really good match, but I do agree. I think it'd be entertaining nonetheless. So.
Right, and I think from a Naito Hanma match in 2021, nobody's looking to whip out the notebook and expect this to be anything out of this world. And so I think it'd be a great opening match for Castle Attack.
One thing, though, they brought up earlier Naito kind of being dismissive of Hanma. And it's like, on the one hand, I see where there might be a logic where you say that's problematic because you're like, well, he's kind of shitting on the guy's victory and there's no heat for a rematch. But I don't know. There's a couple ways of thinking about that. On the one hand, it's like, well, he did only like throw him over the top rope. So
right. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like he pinned him or submitted him. There is also the fact that like it might be disingenuous for Naito to show any sort of actual agitation at it because I mean, I guess he could put it over more, but I mean, it's not really his character. And that's why like some fans love Naito for that sort of like nuanced, approach. And then other people think it's lazy. So I think it kind of depends on how you feel about that character's reaction towards that sort of thing.
And I mean, and we'll get to the other Road 2 shows. I feel like he did have like some kind of reaction to Hanma and kind of got some comeuppance, so to speak, from the elimination.
Yeah, and I think that's the reality is like with Naito, the Tranquilo thing is an act. It's not ever really his true face. It's sort of like a mask. And I know I'm getting into like the sort of speculative realm. But I mean, I think the stories have kind of shown us that very often he'll say one thing, but then outwardly, things will bubble over and he's not as chill or calm as, as his cool exterior, leads you to believe. So, I mean, I don't know. Many of us are accustomed to like the Western side of things where like guys say exactly what they're going to do and how they feel and yada, yada, yada. And they go on long rants, but like, Naito's not usually like that. He's usually hiding what he really feels.
So Tranquilo's a work.
Tranquilo is a work. Tranquilo has always been a fucking work. I think that's the funny thing is like Tranquilo is 100% like a grift. And bro, tell me Tranquilo is not a grift, bro.
All these years, Naito should have been a candidate for Finesser of the Year in the One Nation Radio Awards.
Bro, he is a grifter because he's selling these people a bill of goods about like, this sort of like, I don't know. I don't want to say culture, but like there's definitely like this like community based around him and how he is. But like it's a work. That man is still, the hurt Stardust genius underneath it all. And like
man just wants to be Tanahashi.
Huh?
The man just wants to be Tanahashi.
yeah, man just really wants to be Tanahashi at the end of the day. Like, that's what this is all actually about. And these people are like, oh man, he's so cool. He drags the titles around. Look at his crazy hair. Look, he just lays down. He don't give a fuck. And he absolutely gives a fuck. He gives like the most fucks of anybody in the company. He's a grifter, bro.
Oh man, that is hilarious. We move on to the main event of this evening for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles. We had the Bullet Club team of El Phantasmo and Taiji Ishimori defeating the Suzuki team of El Desperado and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. We have a title change here, main event of Road to New Beginning.
That's why Evil didn't give a fuck about turn on that man. He knew this shit was a work. He's like, brothers, this is business, brother.
It's only a matter of time before the rest of LIJ gets smartened up.
They're all smartened up, bro. It's a work. They're not like Bullet Club where it's for life.
Seriously. So yeah, let's talk about this Bullet Club Suzuki match.
Kenny's over another company representing still.
Hey, it is. I got something on the news about Kenny and the Bullet Club shirt he was wearing. But
I haven't even looked at that far. I'm just kind of messing around. But yes, I would like to say, so Jeremy was, live tweeting as he's watching stuff and, people responding to it, yada, yada. But then I formulated my own tweet, and one Sir ELP happened to like that tweet. So I feel like I won, Twitter for the day.
Yeah, getting put over by now one of the new one half of the junior tag team champs here in a pretty much a cheat fest, a heel fest, whatever you want to call it here, with these two dastardly heel teams trying to utilize their heel tactics here to out heel one another to get the win here.
Very interesting. This match, for me, I really, 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 really enjoyed this match. I don't want to put it over too much, but I just thought it was really, really entertaining. There's a lot of, we talked about this last year where New Japan has a lot of really great tag matches, but they always have pretty bad tag team divisions. And, so with them having such good tag team work, it's not very often throughout the year that any independent match sticks out in my mind, because they are somewhat formulaic, and it's a good formula. I enjoy it. I watch it, obviously, but by the time a tag league's over, there's one or two matches that stick out. The rest of them are kind of, all rolling into one. This is a match that I'm not going to forget anytime soon because there was so much cheating and there was 3 ref bumps. And I know that there have been complaints about this sort of thing happening in New Japan too often. Mm-hmm. But it became so abundant in the match that to me, it actually became smart. They I saw it and I was like, oh, and then they did it again. I was like, oh, that's weird. They don't usually do it twice. And then they did it a third time and I was like, oh, fuck. and I was like, this is good.
Yeah. Hey, I know a lot of our listeners are probably going to be like, well, they hated the Evil stuff and interference and run-ins, but
this is so much better than anything Evil's done.
Yeah, I thought the work in between the cheating was good, and this is not the IWGP Heavyweight title. It's not your top title. It's not right. It's not the main event of a Dominion or a big show. This is the main event of a Road to show for the junior tag team titles that get flipped hot potato throughout the year anyway.
I'm just laughing because I didn't think of that, but I haven't really been online paying attention to what people are saying. I didn't know if there's any sort of outrage, but now you're saying it, I could see that, and I'm like, it's a Road to New Beginning show for the IWGP Junior Tag Team titles.
Right, your top stars are not. There's no Okada, Naito in this matchup here. It's Desperado, Kanemaru, ELP, and Taiji Ishimori.
The other thing too is it makes sense in the context that these are 2 very heel tag teams.
Right.
I know that Desperado has a lot of goodwill coming out of Super Juniors, and people are really hoping that they go with him in a major way these next couple of years. which may or may not happen, but like there's nothing that's shown that he is, he might have some quote unquote honor. He might have showed some honor in that Hiromu match, but he's still a bastard.
Right.
He's a despicable heel bastard, just like the rest of Suzuki-gun. And it was two teams trying to bastard each other and just like show which one is the better dick tag team. And they were trying to take advantage. They're both being, opportunists, taking advantage of the situation presented to them. And it was just really good. I mean, we've kind of seen this formula between these two teams in the past, but they outdid themselves. And I thought the ref bumps were done well. I thought all the, cheating was just done really well. And the suspense was really built up. And it got to a point where like, I started biting on all the near falls, and that's a hallmark of a good, wrestling match. And so I was really engrossed with this one.
Yeah, and also they did a great job of building up ELP's loaded booth, the sudden death super kick. That's been a story going into this matchup, and these guys trying to take the boot off in the match and trying to prove that his boot is loaded. So that played into a big part of the match. The first ref bump, Red Shoes gets the sudden death into the chest. He has to be carried off. He's in so much pain. Then you got Marty Asami running out. He's trying to officiate the match. He gets pulled out. And then later on, he gets sudden death right to the face. He sells it perfectly. He's out cold. Young Lions have to get Marty Asami out of there. And then, the only ref is left is Kento Sato. He runs out there to finish off the match here. But yeah, a lot of ref bumps, a lot of belt shots. Kanemaru trying to use the whiskey bottle. And then towards the end here, we had the Eddie Guerrero spot here of
yes,
Kanemaru throwing the belt to ELP, acting like he's knocked out. Kento Sato's about to, call for the DQ, and then ELP gets rolled up. I thought that was going to be the finish there.
Yeah, they teased that, and it looked like you said. It looked like he was going to call for the belt, but then ELP was trying to stop him, and Kanemaru didn't let them play that out. He just went for the roll up, and so the momentum of the match just kind of continued instead. One thing with this, I just felt like this show, I'm here for this Southern Territory style booking Gato show. Between this match, the Empire and Tenkoji feud, and then the stuff that he's got going with the other guys, bro, this is my cup of tea. This is a straight throwback to 1980s wrestling. And I'm going to say right now, I know it's going to get knocked off the list, but this is going on my show of the year contenders list right now. It's no cap though. It probably is one of the better Road 2 shows that I can remember in a very long time.
Yeah, top to bottom, very entertaining. A lot of meaningful, impactful stuff that happens here. Towards the end of this match, Kanemaru, he goes for deep impact, gets caught with the punch to the dick, and then the sudden death super kick. 1, 2, 3. We have new junior tag team champions, ELP and the Bone Soldier, Taiji Ishimori.
Yeah, ELP gets on the mic and tells everyone, it's not his fault that you're used to seeing 16 or more super kicks. All those guys don't know how to kick right.
He said he's an elite athlete.
He's an elite athlete. He's been out there in the tundra, kicking all the trees, perfecting his technique. And then he was like, I'm going to be remembered as one of, I think he started to list the 4 pillars.
Yeah.
It was like Mizawa.
And then he couldn't remember, and he's
Kobashi. And then he couldn't remember. No, I'm sorry. He said Mizawa Kawada, and then he couldn't remember Kobashi or Taue. So then he's like, Kenta.
Shibata.
Which arguably, I mean, they might actually be better strikers than Taue and Kobashi anyways, but yeah. And then he was like, I'm going to be remembered in that classification as an elite striker, which is just a major troll job. It's so funny. Yeah, I'm here for this ELP loaded boot and him fucking trolling, AEW diehards and fanboys, and also at the same time trolling like the pro elitists who like, and also just trolling everybody. Like literally, it's like so fucking meta. Like he's trying to troll everybody at the same time.
Yeah, like there's not one audience that he's missing out. He's literally trying to hit every audience with his troll job here.
I might not always love his work, but this character work is A+ top notch shit.
Yeah. We had some questions here from EMJ Does PR. And Rainbow asked the same thing. They want to know, what do you think is an ELP's boot? EMJ Does PR says his guess is a good old can of Canadian whoop ass.
I'm just guessing it's a straight up titanium alloy metal. something he forged and fashioned and outfitted into his boot.
Yeah, I mean, has to be. Or maybe he's just telling the truth. I mean, he did pull off the boot in one of the backstage promos.
Oh my God, what if it's not in his boot? What if it's in his foot like Wolverine? Like he got like
adamantium.
Yeah. That's why when they pull off the boot, they don't find shit. It's like when Lex Luger had the steel plate in his forearm. You remember that shit? So, remember how ridiculous, bro? How ridiculous was that storyline? He had a metal plate in his arm and he was bashing it. Then I always wanted them to bring that back up in like WCW, and they'd mention that he had like a motorcycle accident, but he wasn't putting folks away with the fucking metal arm.
Yeah, so maybe ELP, he was trying to kick super kick trees in Canada, broke his foot, and then got the metal put in the foot. And realize it's gonna work out.
It's the greatest work ever. Yeah, that's why. Like he could have been. I'm sure that there were some Canadian indies, operating out there. This man could have been, doing spot shows and working and shit. But he broke his foot, and he had to, get a metal plate put in his foot. That's what it really is. He's got metal in his bones. Oh my God.
Rainbow and Slam Pig asks. He says the January 23rd show felt pretty special for a Road to. Do you think the junior tag titles, the 6-man titles, and similar low-level belts should make more frequent appearances on Road to shows, or does that devalue them?
No, I think it elevates the value of them because you're putting butts in seats and drawing and making stars. I don't see how that would devalue them in any way.
Yeah, I think that's also getting just eyes on Road to shows, for like the gentleman you mentioned that you were talking to, for people like that, they're like, do I have to watch this Road to show? Well, there's no title matches. It's like, well, it's usually the same card over and over again, 3 shows in a row, but it's like, oh, third show there's going to be, a junior tag title match. Oh, there's going to be another 6-man title match. Oh, there's going to be, XYZ, a U.S. title match or whatever, It brings some eyes, sparks interest, and it's going to be a little bit different of a show.
Yeah, 100% agreed.
So next question from Reddit user DunDiesel86 says, El Phantasmo joining Kevin Kelly on commentary has been a real treat. Over the years, are there any other guys who have jumped on commentary and brought a little something extra to the show?
I'll be honest. I think most of the guys that jump on commentary are not very good, but they might be funny or add like a little spark. Juice is one guy that is always like pretty entertaining when he's on there. Fale was funny just because he was so terrible.
Yeah,
like he was so bad at it. Who else has been on there? I mean, like I feel like Chucky T was on a lot.
Yeah, I like Chucky T when he was on there. David Finley's been on there.
Dave Finley's not good, but he's like. But the thing is, like, they don't have to be good because they're just wrestlers filling in.
Yeah,
and they kind of like add to the like story.
Yeah, but yeah, I really enjoyed. ELP joined for commentary a couple of these nights here, and I really enjoyed him with Kevin.
Yeah, I thought he's been really funny, especially like during some of the like Empire stuff. I thought he was really like stand out.
Yeah. Then the last question here from Reddit user PSAN91 says, I loved ELP on commentary and thought he did a great job filling the void. Someone like Gino has left. I laughed so hard when ELP left to do commentary while the match was still going on. He didn't get back in time to break up submission. The guy I had locked in on Gato. I also felt it must have been nice for Kevin, as I felt kind of sad for him having to call shows by himself. Don't get me wrong, he's a fantastic play-by-play guy, probably one of the best in the business, but I think he works best when playing off someone else and coaching them. My question related to this is, which current members of the roster would you like to see join Kevin on English commentary? I, for one, like to see Juice, as I think he would bring a lot of energy to it.
I don't know that there's anyone in particular that I am super keen to see be on commentary personally. I mean, most of them I'd just rather watch them wrestle.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, there's not really like a ton of babyface guy. Oh, I guess it hasn't been babyface because ELP was on there, but even still, I mean, I guess you could throw Ospreay on there to stir up some controversy. Well, not like I'm dying to hear that. Yeah, I can't really think of anybody that really stands out. I mean, like Juice is fun and it's great to have on there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe John Moxley. That might be funny. I don't know. I'm not like super invested in any particular person being on commentary or anything like that. But yeah. I mean, it was funny what happened, what he was mentioning there with Gato and Nagata. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
So let's move on to the next show that happened on January 24th. Opened up with the Suzuki-gun team of Doki, El Esperado, Minoru Suzuki, and Yoshinobu Kanemaru, defeating the team of Tiger Mask, Togi Makabe, Yuji Nagata, and Yuya Uemura. So kind of shifting away here a little bit from the Bullet Club Suzuki-gun rivalry and Suzuki-gun taking on Hontai here.
That's the only real thing of note. Aside from the fact that Makabe and Tiger Mask kind of getting a bit more of a shine on them, but I mean, yeah, they're shifting away from Suzuki-gun facing Bullet Club at this point. Yeah.
So then we move on to the second match of the night. We have Tenkoji and the United Empire fighting to a no contest. This is another great segment here in this rivalry. Something I loved was Great Okan coming out without the entrance gear. It's not time.
He's ready to run it.
Yeah, not time for the gear, not time to do his pose. He's pissed what happened the night before, and he's ready to go.
Okan, no flex zone.
So yeah, these guys just had a wild brawl all around the ring.
It's kind of reminiscent in some regards to the Tupelo concession brawls from the 80s that are very famous. I mean, this is straight up. I mean, this is Mid-South stuff. I mean, we get brawls like this, obviously, but they're very controlled. They're very contained, And when I mention that, you're probably thinking of the Suzuki-gun style brawls. That's not what this is. This is a lot more hate-filled, a lot more heat-filled. The crowds are responding to them, even clap crowds. I mean, they're doing a good job here.
Yeah, this was great. I love this, and gets to the point where Ospreay and Okan are just throwing in a bunch of chairs in the ring. One actually hits Tenzan as Ospreay threw it in. But yeah, they're stacking the ring with chairs, and then Okan's getting ready to hit the Eliminator, but Kojima makes a save with the Lariat, and is able to fend off Ospreay and Okan. Just kind of leaving things there. Kind of standoff.
It's interesting how when we watched New Beginning and we talked about what was the next for them, I really just thought them beating up Tenkoji was kind of just you're in our way, fuck. Basically what Suzuki does to Young Lions all the time,
Right.
I'm angry, you're there, get out of my way, and then that's it. I never thought that they were gonna transition into this. And I mean, if you listen to the shows, it's 1 week I'm they beat up a lion and two dads, and the next week I'm oh man, they're kind of doing something with this. And then now we're here, we're feud of the year. So this is really ramped up quite a bit.
Yeah, loving this feud here. So then next we had Dick Togo, Evil, and Yujiro defeating Goto, Okada, and Yoshihashi. So again, no really developments there, just continuing tease Evil versus Okada. Then in the semi-main event, we had Hiromu Takahashi and Tetsuya Naito defeating Sho and Hanma. I believe this is a match you were talking about where Hanma kind of got that time to shine there with Naito in the semi-main.
I mean, this one, and then even Monday night, he also got some time in another tag match. I think it was, that was the semi-main event also. Both times, I just feel like after that first night with the 10-man tag, like he's just looking rough.
Yeah. So yeah, Naito ends up getting the win here with his little roll through pin thing that he does sometimes. Pin.
Well, he has to, because I don't think that he can give a Destino to Honma.
No, he did on one of the Road 2 shows last week, and it was rough. So I think he's like, yeah, we're not doing that, pal. I'm just gonna keep rolling you up.
Yeah, and when I say that, I don't even mean specifically from like a standpoint of like, oh, it's devastating for his neck, because I mean, realistically, it's not that bad. It's a flat back bump. But I mean, just the fact that he's got all the mechanic parts of what go along with that move, and him, hoisting him and basing for Naito. I just can't see that being a fluid, safe thing for him at this stage of his career.
Yeah. So Naito gets the win here via roll up, gets a little bit of revenge from getting eliminated the night before in the elimination match. And also, we had a lot of shenanigans throughout this tour with Naito and Hiromu, like we normally get with those guys, just kind of playing around and being goofy with each other also.
Yeah, they're kind of teasing that Naito is sort of jealous of Hiromu's junior title.
Yeah.
Which means, is that a tease? We're going to see this man drop some weight?
Who knows, maybe.
Go down some kilos, go down some stones.
Maybe that's why he's not in a program right now. He has to, lose all this weight so he can get ready to set up the Hiromu match.
Yeah. They should do a program where like he claims he's a cruiserweight, but he's not, and then they keep weighing him and shit.
Little Nova Sage Scott action.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking more like what was his face?
Hardcore or Crash Holly. Think he's a heavyweight.
No, who was the one dude? God, he was like dating Aaliyah just recently. He was. Buddy Murphy.
Yeah.
Remember Buddy Murphy had that gimmick? Like he was like the cruiserweight champion, but he had to like weigh in every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They should send Naito back down to junior. Bring some prestige. No, I'm just playing. Now I know there's people that are like, man, they're really anti-Naito this episode.
So next matchup here for the where am I? Lost my spot here.
We got Golden Ace and Master Wato defeating the LIJ team of Bushi, Sonata, and Shingo.
Yeah, so our big main event here with the Hontai team getting the win over the LIJ team, just continuing to tease out the feuds there with Tanahashi and Shingo, and Ibushi and Sonata, and Wato and Bushi.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to really add here. I thought the match was fine. They're pretty much, obviously, they're just telling the stories that are here. Tanahashi and Tanahashi and Shingo, Kota Ibushi and Sonata, and then, the lower level feud of Wato and Bushi just kind of continuing on. Yeah. We've seen good work out of, all three of these pairs all throughout the tour.
Yeah, Wato did have a slip up here in this match where he was going to make the save. Tanahashi had somebody in the cloverleaf, and Shingo was trying to fight Tanahashi off the cloverleaf, and then he was going to do the springboard, and he slipped. Kind of a not so great moment there for Wato. But yeah, but besides that, I think he's looked fine.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't really have much to add to this. I thought the match was fine. I thought it was my least invested out of all the main events. This was, to me, your typical, road to main event, and I thought it was good. I mean, but there wasn't a lot of development here.
Yeah. So we had a question from Kevin from DC. It says the 3-person air guitar debate. You probably knew it was coming. At the conclusion of one of the shows over the weekend, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kota Ibushi, and Master Wato took part in a 3-person air guitar frenzy. My first question of the week is, if Tanahashi represents the Eddie Van Halen of the group and Ibushi is the Jimmy Page of the group, who is Master Wato's electric guitar avatar? I'd probably lead towards Nihilus Lofgren or Danny Thomas, both from Crazy Horse, Neil Young's backing band from the 70s. Very young, very understanded, with a whole lot of time to get better. Unless Wato overdoses or something.
I don't know, man.
I mean, you're the music guy on this show. You play the guitar.
I mean, I do, but like I've never thought to myself, like, when he's like, "You knew this was coming." No, I had no idea. I don't know who he would have been. I mean, like I feel like he had more insight than I would have, like with like the Nils or Danny Thomas. Like, sure. I mean, that I think he answered his own question. I don't really have a like, to me, I would never be like, oh man, Ibushi, he's definitely Jimmy Page. Tanahashi's Eddie Van Halen. I mean, I kind of get what he's saying. I don't know.
Honestly, I think the best part about their little air guitar thing was Ibushi trying to air guitar with both titles still on his shoulders. And he's like struggling, trying to air guitar and hold both titles up. I'm just like, why don't you put the belts down?
Yeah, I mean, to me, like, most of the guitar players that I know from that era are going to be, your big names, your Hendrixes, Clapton, stuff like that, Dwayne Allman, and like, I just wouldn't call Wato any of those guys. So I think he did a good job, given, pretty solid answers there.
Yeah. So the last Road 2 show here, we have January 25th, opened up with Tiger Mask, Togi Makabe, Yota Tsuji, and Yuji Nagata defeating the Bullet Club team of ELP, Gedo, Jado, and Taiji Ishimori. This was the match where ELP left in the middle of the match to go do commentary, and then Nagata ends up getting Gedo and the Nagata lock, and he failed to make it in time to make the save for the team. But yeah, no really big story developments here. Just Gedo continuing to look depressed without his switchblade there with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then we move on to the second match. We have Tenkoji against the United Empire. Ends again in a wild brawl, no contest.
Yeah, pretty much a lot of the same things that we've said already. But the big surprise that came out of this. Once the match was over and the two heated groups were separated, Will Ospreay got on the mic and called for a no DQ match between himself and Kojima, which is pretty much where this feud had been leading anyways.
Right, and then with the translations, we heard pretty much with Okan and Tenzan. Their whole stipulation is going to be loser can't do the Mongolian chop.
Which makes all the sense in the world, given the fact that most of these brawls, when they've been fighting one another, they've been Mongolian chopping the shit out of each other. So it's
that's been great. I forgot to mention that throughout these matches. Yeah, the Mongolian chop-offs these guys have been having.
Yeah, and it's like it's not like usually, in like in the past when they wrestle, it'd be one guy chops, another guy chops. This has been different. Both these guys are both trying to chop at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, so it's been pretty awesome.
Yeah. And the one other different thing about this no contest, we had B. Priestley showing up and giving low blows.
Yeah.
The worst looking low blows to Tenzan and Kojima for Ospreay and Okan to get the advantage.
Yeah, she went to go those were what you call respectful low blows. Like, she's like, I don't want to fuck up, like, at all. But she's on the hard cam, so, like, by not doing it strong looking, you're still fucking up. But she didn't want to hurt them. So she just grabbed their thighs. And then, which technically it's what you really do. Like that's what a real low blow actually is, but or a worked low blow. But she didn't like. I mean, she telegraphed it so much that you're like, why is she, giving these guys forearms into the fucking thigh? That's weird.
So then after that, we had Chaos, Goto, Okada, and Ishii defeating Dick Togo, Evil, and Yujiro Takahashi. Again, just continuing to build up that. I also gotta wonder if we're going to see like Dick Togo, Yujiro, and somebody else from Bullet Club challenge Goto, Ishii, and Yoshihashi for the Never Six Man titles.
I mean, they've got no grounds. They've been losing every match.
Well, they won the one on the previous night.
For almost the whole tour.
Yeah, for most of them they have lost, but I don't know. I'm just trying to see what else could come from that, since these guys are always...
And then after that, the semi-main event, Bushi Naito against Wato and Honma, echoing the sentiments I had earlier, just, Naito and Honma, again, an enjoyable feud, but Honma sort of, looking the worse for wear. But this match ended when Naito did the roll-up once again and then held on to the roll-up for an extended period of time. And Tsuji had to, try to come and fight him off. And it was a whole big spectacle at the end.
Yeah, he held him down for a 25 count. And he made sure to tell Kevin Kelly that in Spanish, 25.
I mean, he beat this man. That's some big brother shit.
Embarrass that man.
Yeah. You're wrestling with your big cousin or your big brother, older kid, and they hold you down 1, 2, 3, and you're like, all right, well, they're going to let me up now because they beat me and it's over. But then they keep holding you down 4, 5, 6, and you can't kick out.
Right.
So now you're really embarrassed. That's what Naito did to this man.
Yeah, just totally like we said earlier.
Disrespect.
That man was really heated about getting tossed over by Honma, and
he told Honma, he's like, disrespect of my grift will not be tolerated.
Exactly. Oh man.
Now let me show you how chill I am by freaking out and holding you down for 25 seconds. And then he looked around and everyone's like, huh? And then he put his fist in the sky and posed.
Yeah.
Super chill.
Then main event here, we had Golden Ace teaming up with Sho against the LIJ team of Hiromu, Sonata, and Shingo. And these boys went to a 30-minute time limit draw. Kind of rare that we see these time limit draws, especially 30 minutes in the main event of a Road 2 show with these top guys here. And I thought it was a great finish, especially with all these guys kind of building into big matches. You don't really want to be pinning a lot of these guys leading into their big matches. So I thought it was kind of a great way there to get out of pinning any one of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we did an exact specific thing where we said this is what's going to happen, but I mean, I remember looking at this thinking who is going to take that loss, and I kind of thought, unfortunately, it'll be probably Sho, but then I was like, that doesn't make sense, and I was like, oh well, maybe we're at the point where they're gonna put over someone like Sonata gets a big win over Ibushi, or Tanahashi pins Shingo, something really, really big like that, and I was like, oh, that's really cool, but them going to the 30-minute draw makes all the sense in the world, and that's why I was like, oh, okay, duh. I wish I would have thought of this or seen it, because no one can really afford to eat the pinfall in this match. So I mean, that's the way you get out of it.
Yeah, and the finish was great there with Shingo and Tanahashi, the last two guys at the end. They're just trading big moves and just frantically trying to get the pinfall on one another. Tanahashi hits a sling blade. But then Shingo's able to end up hitting a pumping bomber and get a near fall on Tanahashi. And Tanahashi kicks out at 2, and then the bell rings. So it's kind of a great finish here. These guys just couldn't put each other away. And then post-match, we had Tanahashi confessing his love for Shingo, telling how much he loves him and how awesome he is.
I think, and I could be wrong here, I'm not a Dragon Gate aficionado like others are, but I believe this is a callback to like BB Hulk and a storyline between him and Shingo from way back.
Did BB Hulk reveal his love for Shingo?
I think he's quoting him verbatim, if I'm understanding correctly. I don't know where I saw that, or it feels like one of those things that, you know how I am, I just know things, but like I don't know, because I don't know enough about Dragon Gate to give the specifics, but I think that that's what's happening there.
Yeah, then Shingo had a post-match promo. He's like, yeah, Tanahashi finally, revealed his love for me. He's like, but he's just trying to get in my head. I'm not falling for it.
Yeah, and I think that's how he's trying to get in his head, is, alluding back to, his former past with his partner and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so that was a funny little ending there.
Even if that's not what it is, I could be wrong. Even if it's just, Tanahashi being witty, either way, or even if you didn't know that aspect of it, it still works on different levels.
Yeah. And we had a question here from Kevin from DC. He says, can either of you recall a multi-man match that went to 30 minutes or 60-minute draw in recent times? Obviously, the 60 draw has occurred in title matches like Okada Omega from Dominion 2017, and 30-minute draws occur regularly during the G1. Just curious if you can recall a tag match time limit draw in recent memory. I know the double countout was a big deal of tag matches, but I can't for the life of me think of many tag matches that went to the time limit draw. It certainly was a unique way to finish off the Huntai versus LIJ 6-man match from the 25th.
Someone talked about this like recently online, but I cannot remember who it was. Like, they had the stat on this.
I think Chris Samsa had a stat about it, if I'm not mistaken.
I can't think of it, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah, let me see if I could pull up his Twitter here real quick and see if I could find that stat that he put out there.
Yeah, in the meantime, while you're kind of looking there, I
found it.
Okay.
So he says the last time an NJPW 6-man tag match went to a 30-minute draw was on February 11th, 2009, when Tanahashi, Tiger Mask, and Yuji Nagata went against Liger, Goto, and Nakamura.
Yeah, and that is pretty far back even for me. Like I don't even know what that match even is. I've never seen it, so it's been a really long time, which just shows you how kind of historic this booking and this match was. I really liked at the end when they were at the end of the 30 minutes, all just kind of like cutting their promos, just sitting down in the ring, just sort of like putting over the exhaustion. Now, for the match itself, I don't feel like I need to break down the whole thing, but I thought that this was just your standard New Japan style tag team match, but done very well. I've actually seen people kind of praising this a bit more than maybe I have for it. Like, I wouldn't even necessarily go 4 stars on it. But I thought it was very good for what it was. I don't know. I'd probably be like in that 3.5 range, maybe a little bit above that.
Yeah, I'm like 3.5, maybe 3.75. I wouldn't go quite 4, but it was really good for this main event. Also, you got 6 great workers in here. Also working very smart as well, not trying to kill each other before their big matches, and told some great stories. There were some great sequences, some great chemistry between all the different opponents, and yeah, I'm looking forward to Shingo and Tanahashi come this Saturday.
Well, the one thing with me mentioning that this was a formulaic match, well, one of the biggest parts of that formula is hot closing sequences, which New Japan does maybe better than anybody else when it comes to tag team matches. And so, I mean, they had a killer closing sequence for everybody. And then plus with the fact that the clock was coming down and you sort of knew what they were alluding to and kind of going for, and kind of wondering, like, are they really going to do a draw? Because they don't do these very often, these situations. So there's high drama at the very end, and that picked up the match quite a bit. As far as like a preview for these 3 big matches going forward, I thought this was an excellent preview match for all 3 feuds. And the biggest focal point at the end there was Tanahashi and Shingo, which is, the match coming up on Saturday. So I thought it was just really, really, really well done. I think they've done a lot of good stuff on this tour.
Yeah, these last 3 Road 2 shows were a lot of fun. Really like all the angles and just the way they're building stuff up. I love Shingo and Tanahashi in the ring together. It's magic. Their match on Saturday is going to be absolutely incredible. But yeah, speaking of Saturday, let's get into the new beginning in Nagoya. Let's give our preview, our official predictions here. Fans have been asking us the last couple of weeks our predictions on some of these matches. Well, here are our official predictions that we'll give here. So we'll start with the opening matchup here. We have Toru Yano and Kazuchika Okada taking on Yujiro Takahashi and Evil.
This one to me is not that important, so I'm just gonna kind of go with the trend and just say Okada and Yano.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Okada and Yano as well. Yano pinning Yujiro.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot. And this is kind of one of those things when we talk about them breaking up these big shows on these cards. I guess it's fine, but then you wind up with some of these matches that may or may not make sense, or they're kind of like semi-quasi preview matches. So, the Okada Evil feud kind of continuing. But I'm just assuming Yujiro is going to get pinned by Yano or Okada, basically.
Yeah. So in the second match of the night, we have Master Wato, Sho, Honma, and Kota Ibushi against Bushi, Hiromu Takahashi, Tetsuya Naito, and Sanada.
I will go with the LIJ side here just because I think, Honma's there ripe for the picking, basically.
Yeah, Honma does look like the ultimate pin eater here in this situation. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to go LIJ.
Like, if I was in a bully mindset like Tetsuya Naito, that's my target. So go for the weak link.
Then third match of the night. Loser must stop using the Mongolian chop. Hiroshi Tenzan versus the Great O-Khan.
So, interesting stipulation. In our group chat, we actually had some discussion the other day where people kind of heard that stipulation. They're like, that's stupid. And I could see why some people might not like this, because how could you stop someone from using it? It's sort of like, remember when we had the no lariat match earlier this year?
Yeah.
And it was like, well, how are you going to stop them? And then I guess it's like, well, if they do it, they get DQ'd. So let's say hypothetically O-Khan loses, right? He's not allowed to Mongolian chop. Does that result in an automatic disqualification for O-Khan for all match? Is it a banned move strictly for him going forward? Like, if he wants to get monster heat, he does a Mongolian chop behind the referee's back because he should be getting DQ'd for it and he's not allowed to do it, but he actually, like, is that how it's going to work? Or is it just like these guys are just so honorable that they're going to honor the stipulation moving forward and not use it anymore if they lose?
I mean, I think it could be either or. I feel like it would be a situation, if whoever loses goes to a Mongolian chop in a future match, that they would get DQ'd.
I don't think so. I don't think they've put that much thought into it. I don't think they're going to DQ. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I think if, let's say Tenzan loses, right? And 2 years goes by, right? And I think he's probably going to retire sooner than that. But let's just say it's his retirement match a year and a half from now. You really tell me this dude's not going to bust out he's not going to and chop a bitch? Like, come on. I think it's just sort of like a gentleman's agreement, going forward. I don't think the company is going to put any kind of enforcement behind this at all, which is what makes it funny. But from a storyline perspective, I think this is actually great because I'm fully expecting Great O-Khan to win. And the deal here, Tenzan's the only person in the company that's really been doing Mongolian chops for all these years. I mean, the only other person I could think of going pretty far back that did them was like Killer Khan, So he's sort of been the Mongolian chop guy. And then suddenly this young dude shows up, all disrespectful, throwing Mongolian chops, screaming, acting a fool. And it's like someone's chop has to go. And obviously I think it's going to be Tenzan because I think he's not long for this, professional wrestling world. And I think it works on a few levels. On the one hand, when Okan takes it away from him, going forward, Tenzan can't do it. So it's sort of like that little wrinkle in his game is gone. And then on the opposite side, every time Okan does do it, he'll get heat because he stole it from Tenzan. And people loved Tenzan when he used to do it. But at the same time, it's sort of a little wink and a little nudge because it's also a homage to him. And when he's gone, he'll be carrying on the legacy of him. And if Okan ever does go face in the future, he's kind of carrying on that little bit of that legacy and kind of keeping Tenzan involved in the mythos. So, like, I think it's really smart. I also kind of came up with that alternative idea just now while we were discussing. I hadn't thought about it, but like, what if Okan does lose? I'm not saying he will. I think it's unlikely. But what if he loses somehow and then has to use the Mongolian chops as a divisive heel tactic?
Yeah, that would work. You would get a ton of heat because the fans know that he's not supposed to do it, and so and
he can only do it like when the ref's not looking, and he doesn't even have to grab like a whiskey bottle or spray mist or any shit like that or punch a dick. Like all he's got to do is chop a bitch.
Right, you get a B Priestley distract the ref, and then he does this crazy scream, hits a chop.
Well, he wouldn't be able to scream though. Well, I guess he could, and maybe that'd be the giveaway. It's hard to like. What about that part of it?
Well, maybe he starts screaming with other moves too. So it's like, I just hit a lariat. I scream with my lariats now. But yeah,
I've seen people. It's funny. Like, what's the deal with one of the guys from Private Party screams? Right? Is it Mark Quinn?
Yeah.
I've heard people talk about it, but I haven't actually witnessed it. I don't know.
Actually,
maybe
I think it might be Isaiah Cassidy does it actually.
Does he do like what is his scream that people keep talking about?
He has like a high pitch like squeal.
Like Tama Tonga?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I've seen people being like, that gets go away heat with me. I don't like it. And I'm like, well, Tama Tonga does that shit. And, Okan's over here doing high-pitched screams, and people are like, well, it's great character work. But, Private Party does it, and it's, it's emasculating. I wonder why. What's different about this guy that's from the other guys?
But yeah, I firmly agree with you. I think Okan's going to win. I think the stipulation is great. It just plays into this rivalry and the story, and it's going to be a great little thing to get Great Okan over.
I would love for the feud to continue on. This is not going to happen, but I would love for the feud to continue on, and then at a certain point, it's like they have maybe like they could take this all the way to the point where it's like Tenzan has to put his career on the line. If Tenzan loses, he retires, but if he wins, he gets the chops back.
Hey, we got plenty of road twos to fill up. There's Cast 2 or there's one. Is there 2 nights of Castle Attack? I think there might be 2 nights of Castle Attack.
I don't know.
There's cards to fill up, so hey, why not?
We had a few questions here about this one, but I think we're both firmly in the Okan camp. Viking Pain asked us, do you guys have that feeling that this year will be Tenzan's farewell tour?
Yeah, especially with him losing the Mongolian chop, I could definitely see this being the beginning of the end. Like I mentioned earlier, around this time last year, we got those series of retirement shows, and I think we could get a Tenzan retirement show sometime down the line later on this year. Yeah,
I mean, in the last 3 years, he's had 3 singles matches, one with Yoshihashi, New Japan Cup last year. Very good. Surprisingly good match. New Japan Cup the year before that with who was that? The guy. It was the junior guy. God, why am I forgetting names tonight? It's because I'm not feeling so good. Taguchi.
Yeah.
And then he had a match a couple years ago in the Best of 7 series with Katsuya Kitamura, who's not even with the company anymore. So, I mean, that's how far back you're kind of talking when you talk about singles matches from. So I definitely think he's – I don't know if this is his farewell tour this year, but, I mean, it's coming in the next 1 to 2 years.
Definitely, yeah. Then next question from Muzzle. He says, never thought I would be invested in a Tenzan singles match, but this feud with Okan has me intrigued. But do you think it could be a good match?
I definitely think it could be a good match because everyone in New Japan are good wrestlers, and there's no reason that they should be having bad matches in the best wrestling company on the planet. Now, will it be a good match is the much more bold question. And I'm going to say yes. This will be a good match.
I think
entertaining.
I think it'll be a good match also. I don't think they're going to go super long. I think it's going to be, like a 10 to 12 minute affair. I think it's going to be very violent, very hard hitting. I think we're going to see a lot of Mongolian chops. And I think at the end, it's just going to be kind of Okan, brutalizing this man and putting him out of his misery.
Brutal.
Peligro.
Kevin from DC asked, I feel more than confident that Great Okan and Will Ospreay will go over their Tenkozy opponents, and when they meet next week, I guess I'm musing on how a worker like Great Okan would incorporate sneaking in the Mongolian chops into every match going forward if he lost to Tenzan. Could a wrestler such as Okan or any wrestler find a way to sneak a wrestling move into every match and still produce quality matches on the regular? As another person mentioned, Tenzan is probably winding down his career in general, and it would be appropriate for him to symbolically hand the move over to Okan.
Yeah, so he's kind of thinking on the same wavelength as you. If he lost, he would have to sneak in the Mongolian chop, and I think you could still have good matches like that, but it would help, especially for a heel, to be able to kind of sneak, like we mentioned, get a ref distraction and use that move to generate heat.
I mean, you don't even really need like a ref distraction. You do need what I mean by that is you don't need someone like running distraction every time. There are ways to get that distraction generated on your own without having to have, like, say, B. Priestley run that interference. And if you're not sure what I mean by that, just go watch, World of Sport Pro Wrestling. Those heels in that company, because the rules were so strict and it was so sports oriented, they had to cheat right in front of the ref without the ref knowing it and find all kinds of cunning and creative ways and it actually made them better workers for being able to do that. So could a good worker do it? Yeah, go watch Gentleman Jim Breaks and see the stuff that he would pull in his matches, or, Rollerball Rocco, and, tell me that a guy can't do the same cheating spots in every match and still have great matches. He absolutely could.
Yeah. And I agree.
In fact, there's part of me that kind of wants this to happen now. Like, I think it'd be interesting, but, I do think it's a symbolic passing of the torch probably.
Yeah, just like, last year we had Iska hand over, or that was 2019, hand over the Iron Claws to Taichi.
Yeah.
So kind of handing off of something symbolic here. Then the fourth match, semi-main of the evening. No disqualifications. Satoshi Kojima versus Will Ospreay. Yes,
so we've got the Commonwealth Kingpin taking on Satoshi Kojima, no DQ. As I mentioned earlier, I don't think Kojima's beat anybody in singles competition within New Japan in the last 3 years. So I don't think that this is going to be any exception. But, I mean, his job was to kind of help elevate Will Ospreay, and they took something that should have been nothing and really made it into something. And this kind of gives me a little bit of like Mick Randy Orton vibes. I'm not saying it's a perfect, it's not exactly the same. It's definitely on a lower level in terms of like, notoriety and, the level of the feud, but there's some illusions there. And I mean, Will, for all the great work he's done in New Japan and all the years he's been here, how many true blue feuds has he actually had? I mean, I in all the years we've been covering it, I can't remember too many best Will Ospreay feuds that we've ever ran down. I mean, because most of them are junior athletic styled matches. I mean, he's had rivals, but nothing that like really, kind of bordered on that like personal level until like literally just now with the Okada stuff, which I think will continue on down the road. So this is a big test for him, kind of getting into a interpersonal sort of deal. He's never been in a no DQ match in Japan. I've seen him have street fights in the UK, and he's very adept at that sort of thing. He can go. I hope
there was that one match you were telling where he faced. I think it might have been a ladder match where he faced his old partner.
No, it was him and Paul Robinson, Swords of Essex, against the not CCK. What are the Dunkzilla and Kyle Fletcher?
Aussie Open.
Aussie Open, yeah, they had a TLC match that was incredible. So I mean, he had that big Wembley Stadium match with Jimmy Havoc that was crazy. So I mean, he's done stuff like this before. This will probably be much more contained than that. But I mean, Kojima coming off of a great match with Kenta just very recently. He's kind of riding a momentum wave here, and I expect this match to really deliver.
Yeah, I think this match could actually get to the 4-star to notebook territory here. Kojima, he's been fired up. The promos have been great intensity. We're seeing these brawls have been wild. So I think this is going to be a wild, crazy match. These guys are going to be brawling all over the place. We're going to see chairs. We're probably going to see tables. I think Ospreay's going to take some crazy bumps for Kojima. And I think we're going to see that more kind of killer side of Ospreay with the striking that we've seen lately, more of the kind of Chris Hero forearms and elbows he's been doing lately. So I think it's going to be a very hard-hitting, very kind of brutal matchup here with Ospreay going over. So we had a question here from Reddit user DunDiesel86. Says, so far I've really been into the build between the United Empire and Tenkozy. The disqualifications are actually getting a really good heat with me. After Will and Oka inevitably go over in their singles matches, who do you think will look for them to? Who will they look to go after next? Thank you guys for the great content. Keeping It Strong Style is consistently my favorite wrestling podcast to listen to. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate those words. It's nice to be appreciated in our own time. No, but yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I'm not really sure what's next for them. I mean, I think the biggest thing is New Japan Cup is sort of on the horizon, and I feel like that's kind of got to be where their attention goes next. But I think they could definitely see. Here's the thing: usually, if someone gets into some sort of feud prior to that and leading into it, it's usually a dead giveaway that they're not gonna win the tournament. Mm-hmm. You kind of sort of need to be freed up a little bit to be eligible to win that thing. So, I mean, if they get into some sort of feud going into the cup, then you kind of know, specifically Ospreay is probably not going to be the New Japan Cup winner. But I think he's a good candidate, a really good candidate to win it. I don't know that he wins the title on his first try, but I don't see any reason why you don't have him win that tournament and be the next challenger for Ibushi and maybe even win the title.
Yeah, I mean, do you think it's even possible for him to, he wins this match and then maybe he comes out after Ibushi Sonata in a couple of weeks and he's the challenger for Castle Attack?
I think that would be possible. The only thing is, like, I mean, who knows how it really goes in New Japan, but I mean, he just lost in the Dome to Okada. It sort of feels like Okada Evil might potentially be like that de facto number one spot next, but possibly.
Yeah, the only thing with Okada Evil is like the match for them hasn't even been announced yet, so they might be facing each other at Castle Attack. So you need somebody to face Ibushi.
Oh, that's true. I was also sort of thinking like you didn't necessarily have to have a title shot there.
That's true. Man, I don't think you have to, but with it being Osaka Joe Hall, I feel like they're...
yeah, that's right. They're running Osaka Joe Hall. So that is a great conundrum. I'm not sure who's next. I mean, Osprey's there, and he's the name that you could go with. The only thing is, it just seems kind of early to me. But I mean, it's a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
There's always Naito again.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, Naito could easily walk out after the Ibushi Sonata match and be like, "Hey, let's run it."
Yeah.
So then the main event of this show for the Never Openweight Championship, the strong and best title, as Shingo calls it, he will be defending against Hiroshi Tanahashi.
This is a match we've talked about on the show in the past. It's a dream match. It's one that we've been waiting for. You and I, we've been waiting for this since Shingo rose to prominence, especially since he became a heavyweight. And we speculated all year that it might be a Wrestle Kingdom match. We didn't quite get that, but we're getting it now as a headliner for a big New Beginning show. And I think that these guys are going to go out there and tear the house down.
Yeah, I think this match is going to be phenomenal. I could see this being a match of the year contender, especially for the early part of the year. I think it's going to be a really just killer matchup, especially just based off of the sequences and interactions we've been seeing in the multi-man matches, and Shingo being disrespectful, using the twist and shout, just some of the different interactions they've had. I think it's going to be a great match. I'm really looking forward to it.
I agree. And I think after a lot of reflection, contemplation, inner soul searching, seeking, I had to look deep within and ask myself, who do I think is actually going to win here? And you know what? I'm going with the ace.
Oh, wow.
I don't know, man. It just, I think Shingo could absolutely win it. But, you know, at the same time, it's like we're at a point where right now the double titles are kind of tied up. This Never title needs a little bit of an elevation. Shingo's done a fantastic job with it, and he held it for a lengthy period of time, regained it. And, you know, he hasn't had too many title defenses with it again, but he already sort of had that big, strong, establishing title reign already. I could easily see this title switching hands right now. It gives Tanahashi something to do. It gives Shingo something to maybe come back and chase for again. Or even free Shingo up to potentially do other things down the line. Like, again, the New Japan Cup is right on the horizon. So I think it just makes a lot of logical sense from a booking perspective. Plus, I don't think most of these titles are changing hands. So this could be the big news coming out of the show is, you know, Tanahashi beating Shingo.
Yeah, man, you make some great points there, and I think that you know, probably the more interesting thing, is Tanahashi winning. There's a lot of fresh, you know, Never style matchups you could do with Tanahashi as Never champ. You could have Tanahashi go against some juniors. That could be a lot of fun. But I don't know. For me, I'm going with Shingo retaining right now. I feel like they've been kind of telling this story of Tanahashi just not being quite on that, you know, that top level anymore. And so I don't know. I just feel like a Shingo win here that would help elevate Shingo, help elevate the Never title, and potentially, you know, position Shingo to get some bigger wins later on this year, and let's say a New Japan Cup or a G1, and kind of elevate him maybe to a potential even a title match sometime, a double title match sometime later this year.
Yeah, that's the one thing that kind of gave me pause. I know I'm making a bold claim, but you're right. They have been telling a story with Tanahashi not being quite up to snuff. He mentioned in the backstage comments, he's like, is it going to be 100 steps forward or 100 steps backwards? I'm basically at a turning point. My whole thing is like Tanahashi's kind of already, like, I don't know, been on that downward spiral for most of last year. It just kind of feels like more of the same. Maybe they're going somewhere with it, I suppose. You know, I don't have the book, so I don't know. But I just feel like, given where they're at in the company, I think logically this could make sense. But either way would be fine. I mean, you know, if Tanahashi loses, that's a huge, huge win for Shingo. that's a big loss for Tanahashi. This is, I don't think he's ever fought for the never belt before, and he's never really been at that third tier level, which is kind of what this. I mean, well, he has, but it's been a long time since he's been there, and that's kind of what this would be. So, I mean, you could definitely make a story out of that.
Yeah. We had a question here from Viking Pain. He says, let me try to be ahead and say Tanahashi beat Shingo for the Never title and goes on to face Ibushi at the upcoming anniversary show instead of Hiromu. I recall Never Openweight champion Will Ospreay and IWGP Heavyweight champion Jay White doing the exact same thing a few years ago. Thoughts?
I
will say,
what do you think?
There was a backstage comment from Monday's show where Ibushi said something along the lines of, Tanahashi, I'm going to be hoping you win the Never title, and then we can face off for these titles.
Yeah, they did do that. That was a champion versus champion exhibition match, which typically, in the more recent histories, that's kind of what that anniversary show has been. But I mean, you could definitely do Tanahashi winning the belt and then do a big match between those two, and that would sell well. I mean, you could even do that at Castle Attack at that point, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not banking on that, but I mean, that's something you could definitely do.
Yeah, bold prediction. I like that, though. I think that'd be a great matchup there, getting Ibushi Tanahashi back in there.
That's kind of the nice thing. We're a little bit in the middle of this like Wild West frontier when it comes to the booking, where because things have been shaken up so much and they kind of just have this clean slate, so they can kind of go and do whatever they like to do at this point. And they might even be necessitated to do some out of the box sort of booking decisions like that because of how things are situated. So maybe they do something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, be interesting to see. The next question here from @AEW News 1_. Should NJPW Global change the name of the openweight title to the IWGP Openweight Championship since Never Tours aren't a thing anymore?
I would say no, because the Never title never headlined any Never Tours. So they used to have these like Never shows back in the day, like around like 2010 to like 2012-ish. And those definitely were a thing. They were like little produce. I mean, New Japan has had a long history of produce shows and different projects and stuff like that throughout, especially like after Inokiism. But the Never title didn't exist during those tours. The last time they actually had a Never tour was when they had the Never Openweight title tournament. And at the end of the tournament was Tanaka against Carl Anderson. And then they never had another Never tour ever again. So, I mean, I don't see why you would change it now, 9 years later, when they ran for 9 years with the Never title as being a secondary or third tier title in the company for the whole duration. Plus, we all know that the Never committee is better than the IWGP committee anyways.
Exactly. Look at the way this title's been booked. The Never committee, a great set of gentlemen right there. And plus, Never just, it has its brand, It's for guys who never back down from the smoke, never afraid to run it. So I think
how often are they with that bullshit?
Never. So real quick, moving on to NJPW Strong. This was the Lions Break Contender show. We had night 1 of Lions Break Contender.
Road to.
No, this was night 1. I forgot to
my bad.
update the heading there. So yeah, this was night 1 of Lions Break Contender. I
didn't watch this shit.
We had the Regal Twins. They defeated Jordan Clearwater and Kevin Knight. We had a nice little Hoss match here with Brody King defeating J.R. Kratos. But the big news item coming out of this show, Ren Narita defeating Bateman with the Cloverleaf hold here, 14 minutes, 53 seconds, getting a big win over established Ring of Honor guy. Our man Ren Narita getting a little bit of a push here We had some questions here from Reddit user ABlue3. Opinions on Ren Narita beating Bateman. Do you think he is graduating from Young Lion status?
Well, I mean, I guess technically he kind of already is. That's sort of like when you go. I mean, I guess you're a lion on excursion, but this whole thing is kind of wonky because like he went to the U.S. to work indie dates, and the indie dates never happened, and then he's only. This is the first time in the past year that he's like shown up on a show since like the. He worked at the J Cup, but that was about it. So
yeah, well, I mean, the weird thing about it is that he's still. They're saying he represents the LA dojo.
He does because that's where his excursion is.
Yeah,
his excursion is to the LA dojo. So, I mean, I think technically he's not viewed as a full-fledged young lion because he's on excursion, but
right.
he's also not graduated either. So, yeah. I mean, and that's how it is always. He's in that interim phase right now.
And Kevin Kelly at one point did say he's no longer a young lion, but I don't know if
he's not.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not a young lion in the same way that Great O'Khan was not a young lion in Rev Pro.
Yeah.
They're on their excursion, but he's not graduated to his full. He hasn't evolved to his final form.
Right.
He's wrestling Bateman. He's like, "Oh, you thought you want to fuck with me? I haven't even moved up my next form yet, dog."
But yeah, I was happy to see.
I was suppressing my power level.
I was happy to see Narita get the win here. It was very surprising, and so yeah, looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with his push.
They got a lot of time there. 14 minutes 53 seconds. Was this good?
Yeah, it was a pretty good main event there for Strong.
I guess what I was surprised about is just they gave Bateman all that time to talk about Lambs to the Slaughter and how he's going to fuck everybody up, and it really seemed like oh shit, they're about to have this guy just squash people, which is what I was here for it. And then they had him go out there for 15 minutes with Ren Narita, which we love Ren Narita, but that doesn't really make a lot of. I guess it does make sense in the sense of like he's a Ring of Honor guy, Narita's your homegrown guy. You want to put over your own talent. I get that, but it seems short-sighted to have given him all that screen time to cut that long-ass promo and really try to establish his character and then have him lose. So I didn't see the match. Maybe it did something for both guys because they got a lot of time, but it just seems kind of, I don't know, wonky, I guess, from a creative standpoint.
I guess it was just they're just trying to pull a swerve. It was like, all right, we built up this Bateman guy. He's going against Narita, who fans still see as, young lion. They think Bateman's going to get a squash and win, but we're going to pull the swerve and have Narita win.
But the thing is, they didn't really establish him because he didn't have any matches. He just had the one promo, So, I don't know.
ABlue3 also asks, who would you like to bring into NJPW who would work both Strong and Japan shows? I'd like to see Chris Hero, Roosh, Dragon Lee, Gresham, and Bandito.
Those are all really good answers. I don't know if I have better answers than those. Let's fucking do that. Except for Roosh can stay his ass home.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I don't understand why Dragon Lee / Ryu Lee has not been working Strong. He's been doing Ring of Honor shows in the States. He's the Ring of Honor TV champion. I get that he has to be in the ROH bubble when they get ready for those TV tapings, but we've seen Brody King. We're seeing Bateman. We've seen other Ring of Honor guys. Justin Gabriel, or PJ Black is his name now. We've seen those guys be on Strong throughout since Strong has started. Why hasn't a guy like Dragon / Ryu Lee, a guy who has dual contracts, why he hasn't been using Strong yet?
Yeah.
And then so next week, night 2, Lions break contender. Leo Rush makes his Strong debut in the main event, teaming up with Fred Rosser and TJP. Take on Kenta, ELP, and Hikuleo. We have Chris Dickinson versus Rocky Romero. And then the opener, Clark Connors versus the new LA Dojo Young Lion, the DKC.
I will for sure be tuning in to see Rocky and Chris Dickinson. That sounds awesome. Sounds like a pretty decent card there.
Yeah, should be fun. Yeah, that Dickinson-Rocky match should be really good. Moving on to the news. There's a few quick news items here. So PWI had a digital-only issue that had an Inside NJPW article with Walter Yeats interviewing NJPW President and CEO Takami Obari. who took over for Harold May when he resigned in September. So I got some of the highlights here, but you can download that from PWI if you want the full interview. Abari, he assured that NJPW's plans on running events in different arenas in Canada and the U.S. was still a goal for NJPW. When asked about NJPW's immediate and long-term goals, Abari went into detail about NJPW reaching a point where they could run events both in Japan and in the U.S. simultaneously. He also hopes that in 2022, which is NJPW's 50th year, the company can regularly earn about $100 million a year, where they can run big events in Japanese stadiums and big U.S. venues like Madison Square Garden regularly. Abari expressed his desire for NJPW to show its strong style mentality. He did not confirm if Wrestle Kingdom would remain 2 nights permanently. He did express NJPW's desire to run more large-scale events, not only in other 4 major domes, but also outside of Japan. When he was asked about what he feels the biggest challenges for NJPW are, he said that they continue to expand internationally. And he noted with NJPW's 50-year history, setting up a loyal fan base in Japan. He also noted how vital free distribution and television will be, along with talent acquisition. Josh, any thoughts here on these comments from Abari? I don't know if you saw anything else that he said.
I mean, it sounds good in theory, but I mean, I don't see anything there more than fluff, to be honest with you. I mean, some of that stuff is great. You know, we want to run in the U.S., we want to run in Canada, we want to, you know, grow, do 100 million a year. You know, that's great. How do you plan to do that? And in this market, how do you plan to do that? And I'm not saying that they can give away all their business plans and ideas, but they have not shown competency and understanding of foreign markets to be able to do that. And the importance of U.S. television distribution, which is like the keystone hallmark of what is needed to have a successful company or Seaside, you know, over here in the States. And they didn't talk about that at all. So it's like, even when they asked what do they feel the biggest challenges are for them as they continue to grow and expand, like, they didn't touch on any of the real things that have been already huge problems for them. And I mean, I guess it'd be hard to say, like, well, I guess the fact that we created our own competition in AEW, that would be, you know, our biggest obstacle. You know, they didn't bring that up. I don't know, man. I mean, it sounds great, but like, I think back to like when Pride, I know it's not the same thing, but like Pride wanted to do the same thing. And I know Dragon Gate kind of tried to do the same thing a few years ago. And it's like, you want to run events simultaneously between the two companies. I mean, creatively, how do you plan to do that? You know, you gonna have Gato being, you know, booking all this shit out, you know, how's that gonna work for the talent? Like, I just think it's so lofty. It's like, I don't know that that's the way to go, to be honest with you. I mean, what major company can you think of that does really well running 2 simultaneous organizations in 2 separate countries on the other side, on 2 separate sides of the globe? Like, it's never happened.
Yeah, and I think too another problem is kind of when I was looking at the interview, like with the international with the U.S. stuff, it's sounding like, you know, the guys that they're bringing into Strong, like these, you know, DKCs and Jordan Clearwaters and all these guys, like, they want to establish a U.S. roster they can have to work these U.S. shows. But we've kind of talked about, you know, New Japan fans love New Japan for the Japanese talent. And so how are you going to create an American, you know, New Japan brand with all these American guys?
Well, I mean, in theory, you could, but it would take a long time to do that. You know what I mean? And at a certain point, you're probably creating something that's not New Japan authentic anymore, you know?
Yeah. Like
you're mentioning. I think the biggest problem, aside from just what you mentioned, you know, the presentation of the product, it's also the sense that this is almost everything he said is primarily based on touring, you know? You know, we want to run shows here. We want to run shows there. We want to do shows everywhere. I mean, wrestling is becoming a content creative sort of thing here in the States. Look at what's going on with WWE. Even look at AEW. I mean, they're not doing any touring. Touring is an antiquated model that's not going to reap large results in current day US. It's just not. And it's going to cost too much, and it's going to drown you, put you in a hole, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they need to figure out how to get good distribution here in the States, because that's the thing that they need. And that's the thing that will worry and concern Vince McMahon and Tony Khan. They will not care if New Japan is running cities, you know, all over the country. Ring of Honor already does that, and they don't give a fuck. They're not going to care if New Japan does it, because it's not going to translate to anything significant. But if they get national television and they're putting big stars up like Will Ospreay, Jay White, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Okada Naito, then we're talking.
Yeah. So yeah, still no news on their US and UK TV deal that they teased through Wrestle Kingdom. So we'll see what happens with that.
I mean, yeah, we'll see.
In other news, we had a ROH TV title match last week with Dragon Lee took on Ray Horace. Uncle Dave gave it 4 1/4. So you can check that out on ROH's website from their TV show last week. I haven't watched it yet, but yeah, hearing really great reviews from it, and yeah, it's just great to see Dragon Lee back in action here. And then last little interesting note I have here, there's a lot of talk on the internet during Impact's Hard to Kill pay-per-view when Kenny Omega wore the Halloween Bullet Club shirt, and also we talked about some of the Tama stuff last week, but while looking at Pro Wrestling Tees last week, I saw that the Halloween Bullet Club shirt ended up being one of the top sellers for last week on Pro Wrestling Tees.
Yeah, that shirt sucks. I don't know why people like that shirt. I saw a lot of people like talking about how dope that shirt is. I don't know, maybe because I like the color scheme or something. I think it's shitty. I'm not a big fan of like niche sort of things that are
Seasonal.
Yeah, I don't like seasonal shirts. Like, I mean, I guess it's cool if you're like, I want to have something that says I'm a mark and I love trick or treating. Love spooky season, and I love the OGBC, the Biz Cliz, But I love the Biz Cliz, but I also want to know I'm all about Halloween, All Hallows Eve. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. That's bullshit, Like, that's one of those shirts that those guys are marketing geniuses. They're like, oh, Halloween's coming around. Let's throw this shit out there. We know the marks are gonna eat it up,
Yeah.
And they fucking did. And then he was like, oh no, let's put that shirt on again. I bet you people will buy it. And like, they fucking did. Oh, I guess he didn't benefit from it though. It's New Japan, like,
yeah,
getting the benefit out of that shit. So I don't know. I think that shirt sucks. I always have though. I'm not a fan. I mean, I don't really wear that as much wrestling merch as other people anyways, because I'm kind of selective. Like, I don't know. People are marks.
Yeah, even a merch guy like me, I would not buy the seasonal, Bullet Club t-shirt. Like, I got one Bullet Club shirt, with the main logo. I don't need, a Halloween version, a Christmas version, Easter version.
Yeah. The Kwanzaa version, dog.
The skull with the goofy on top. Actually, I might get that.
The skull with the Bullet Club with the goofy on top. Bro, that'd be so funny.
Oh my gosh.
Bro, oh my god. All right, let's get into these questions. Let's go home because I'm not feeling so good.
All right, yeah, let's run through these real quick. Reddit user ablue3, do you think if there was no virus, Suji or Yamura would be on Excursion by now? And do you think either will just skip Excursion?
I think it's possible, but also they haven't really brought out they haven't debuted any other lines. We saw the one recently, but they haven't made any official debuts. And maybe that's also due to, the pandemic. But normally there's a cycle where you have the upper, what are they called? Kohai?
Yeah.
The Kohai senpai relationship, they usually kind of establish that. And there's no senpais for these Kohais to gang up on. So, I don't know. And yeah, they could skip excursion. It's not unprecedented. Sometimes it's beneficial. Sometimes it's really not. So,
yeah, I could see it going either way. If there was no virus, yeah, possibly they could be sent on excursion. But like you said, yeah, they got to reload the system first. They have to get some new young lions to have 10-minute draws for us to check out first. So.
He also asked, do we think Umino Shooter will be back from excursion within the year? And if so, who would you like his first feud to be with?
It's hard to tell. I could potentially see him coming back. Also, I don't even know where he is right now, if he's been stuck in the UK or if he's found his way back to Japan. But it would be cool to have him come back within the next year or so. As far as first feud, I don't know. What I saw in Rev Pro, like he looked like a star and looked like, a guy that could be, a top guy and ace of the company. So I'd like to see him feud with somebody that's in the topper. Maybe start off somewhere in the mid card and then work his way up.
Tanahashi beat that old bastard.
Yeah, you could do that.
I don't know. For me, sure, like. He's on excursion. Maybe he's getting some life experience. Maybe he's, working in the best gyms. We've seen excursions where guys have gone away and not done, a lot of in-ring work that was in front of, paying eyes. But for the most part, traditionally speaking, you send him there to work other styles, work other guys, get reps. And he hasn't actually been able to do that. And working, in a gym is not the same thing as working in front of a crowd. So, if it was me, I would say, no, let's hold off. Let's get everybody these, these shots so that everyone can be vaccinated. Let's get him working in front of crowds and bring him back when he's ready. Unless, they have different criteria because, I don't know, Watanabe, he didn't, work that much in front of live crowds either. So who knows?
Yeah, he was barely used in Ring of Honor. Okada barely used.
Okada too.
Yeah, barely used in Impact. So,
Just a Little Bear asked us, while it is very hard to plan anything specific in the pandemic, do you guys think that the second MSG show, Wrestle Dynasty, is a dead idea for now, or will eventually be rescheduled?
I could see it being rescheduled. New York was a hot spot. I know we're getting the shots and the vaccines rolled out there, but
that show's not happening right now. I don't remember where I heard it or who said it, but I know it's not happening right now.
Yeah, that's probably
it could happen in the future, but yeah, it's pretty much dead.
Yeah, that's gonna be looks like move back to 2022 probably. Viking Payne asked us, is the COVID situation down in Florida as bad as the media is making it out to be? And is Tampa prepared to handle big events like Super Bowl 55 and WrestleMania 37?
That's a great question. To be honest with you, I don't work in the medical field. I know Jeremy doesn't. We sit our happy asses at home trying to be as responsible as possible. But yeah, I think it probably is as bad as it sounds to be. Look at how many deaths there are. And you could go down a whole wormhole and rabbit hole when it comes to testing metrics. There's going to be some sides that say that, they're over tested. In fact, they pretty much have proven recently that they've overcycled on the testing, and perhaps some of the tests have been too sensitive. And maybe they're giving too many positive cases when there really aren't as many positive cases. But then at the same time, there's a lot of false negatives. There's a lot of people who are testing negative and definitely have it. And so it's hard to know exactly what the reality is. But what I do know is everything's open. When I look online, I see a lot of people that I know out there, out and about doing things that I haven't done in well over a year, eating out, gambling, going to God knows what, to everything. And, you see that, it makes you nervous. Like, it makes me nervous to like go to the grocery store and shit like that, because I don't want to get, it's not even for me, but like, I don't want to give it to somebody else and like kill somebody,
Right.
So yeah, but I mean, my girlfriend, she works in healthcare, and it's hell. It's been hell for a year. I mean, it's literally like a living nightmare. And so for people that are like in elder homes and hospitals, yeah, it's just as bad as it is. And with this new strain, which is already, they've proven, they're saying it's going to be more deadly and it's more contagious, and it's already out there. I mean, I'm assuming it's going to get worse. And no, I don't think we're prepared to handle big events like the Super Bowl or like WrestleMania. And I think it's grossly irresponsible that they're having those events with that many people.
Yeah, I saw something today where it was like, yeah, city officials are not going to be reinforcing COVID guidelines for these events, or just kind of expecting people to take their own precautions for these events. So
yeah, they let the genie out of the bottle a long time ago, and they can't put the worms back in the can at this point. Like, they pretty much just given up. Like, they lost the battle.
yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens both of those weekends with cases. And
it's not going to be interesting, to be honest. It's actually very sad.
Yeah.
It's sad because people are going to die because of it. And I mean, it's not an overstatement. It's not, a fear tactic. It's just the truth. This thing is deadly. It's not deadly for everybody. It is for a small portion, but with how contagious this thing has been, and we haven't had COVID talk on this podcast in a long time, but with how contagious this thing is and how widespread it is, I mean, it results in deaths. It's undeniable,
Mm-hmm. So,
and I mean, there's all kinds of arguments around this, whatever side of the fence you fall on. But I think the one thing to me that's just logical, it's like, you shouldn't be putting 25, 30,000 people into a general vicinity when there's a global pandemic going on that's killing people. Like, I don't know. It just seems, do this shit do it in front of a green screen like you did last year,
Right.
I mean, fuck. I mean, Super Bowl is not even real this year. I mean, everyone here in Tampa is like marking out because, like, yeah, we're the first team to do it at home. I'm like, this season wasn't even real. Like, calm down.
Yeah.
Out of all the, at least like with the other, like with MLB, hockey, NBA, they had some semblance of actual seasons, but like NFL, they had like teams with no coaches. Like, teams were getting like knocked off left and right. Like, shit wasn't right. Like, this was not a real NFL season.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird. It's a weird year, weird season. Yeah.
Yeah, it's bullshit. It's all bullshit.
His next question, it says, non-NJPW related question, but what are your thoughts on Undertaker's recent comments about the current WWE product being soft? Is there some validity in his comments, particularly about wrestlers in our current generation, or is this just another case of angry old guy?
I don't know. I listened to the podcast. I thought it was sort of, honestly, it was an offhanded comment that was just spewed out in the middle of, a 2+ hour conversation. To me, it didn't seem like anything that was like I get it. I get why people are mad about it, but I just kind of didn't take it that seriously. I was just like, every wrestler that's ever been in the industry feels the way he feels, that the era that they came from was better. And the guys that are here now are going to feel that way themselves in 20 years if they're still around. And that's just the way things are.
Yeah, I didn't hear the whole podcast. I just saw the comments that were shared around online. I mean, at the end of the day, I do think that the locker room is a little bit of a healthier situation than it was in Undertaker's day. That it's better that these guys are playing video games instead of doing drugs and having knives and guns in the locker room. So
I mean, I think part of it though too is like, I don't think it's as simple as one way or the other. Like it's stupid to boil it down to one thing he said or one thing he didn't say or whatever. Like the honest truth is, like, there's definitely positives from his era, and there's definitely mega negatives that just don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
The hazing, the bullying, the drug use, that shit, it's gone. But then there's also like people sticking to their gimmicks. There's definitely like people that like kind of brought a believability that's sort of missing from, today's product. And I think that's some of what he's kind of alluding to, is like, they were businessmen, they're a bunch of dudes who were about their business, who were about making their money, and and it was just a different feel. And I think there is some positivity to that idea, and also like the idea of like there being respect and that sort of thing. It's not all bad. It's just different. But, I think some people, they saw the comments and they immediately were like, oh, he's saying they're soft. And if you want to take him to task for that, that's fine. But I kind of thought it was overblown, to be honest with you. Like, it wasn't really what the podcast was about. It was mostly about, honestly, the podcast was just basically a rehash of everything that, if you're a wrestling fan, you pretty much already knew all the stuff that he said. Now, here's the most egregious thing. This is the real egregious thing from that podcast. That he said, that man said that he worked an average of 237 dates a year, every year for like decades. Dude, Undertaker never broke 160 matches in a year. And that is the absolute truth. Go to Cage Match. If anyone be like, well, how do we know? Well, we've got the records.
Right. And as many times as he's gone away and come back for various storylines. And
in the mid-90s, in the early 90s, he worked some pretty tough schedules. There were about 100, 160, maybe a little more than that. He never broke 200 in a year. And this guy was going out there saying he worked almost 240 dates a year, 300 days a year or whatever. No, he didn't. He didn't do that. Maybe, I remember like Dean Ambrose worked like a hellacious schedule a couple years ago that was like crazy. I know Jey Uso did, but Undertaker never did that shit.
Right. Especially, that last half of the run there. Next question here from Kevin from DC. Any attempts planned to go to Super Bowl 55? I can't recall you both ever talking about football. I myself am not really a fan. I'm asking because it's probably going to be seen as a trial run for big events going forward, including WrestleMania 37, which is also in Tampa. The way I look at things like this is that people can sit every third seat and attempt to promote social distancing norms. Events like Dominion and Wrestle Kingdom have shown that. However, I still want to pull my hair out when people are outside not wearing masks, or worse, wearing masks without covering their nose. It's almost like they are flaunting their unwillingness to properly mask up. Do you remain optimistic that Americans can attempt to enjoy live events again properly?
Well, I mean, I don't have any plans to go to it or anything like that. There actually may be a possibility of obtaining tickets, I found out today. So it's funny you ask that, but I didn't make any plans. I understand football, but I'm not a big fan of it like other people are. I like college. I'm a Michigan fan, and I guess I'm a Lions fan. And for this week, I'm a diehard Tampa Bay fan.
Yeah.
I wasn't last week, but this week, Dexter Jackson, let's do this shit. Run it back.
Yeah, I don't have any plans on going to Super Bowl 55. I'm not really a big football fan. Like you, I understand the game and the rules, stuff like that. I mainly pay attention because I do play like the fantasy football stuff at my work and at my church, just because I like winning stuff. And at my church league, the prize is a title belt that I've been desperately trying to win the last 3 years now. I've gotten so close, but so yeah, I pay attention to that because of that. But I don't really watch games or go to games that often, so I have no interest in going to Super Bowl, really.
Here's the thing, like, I'm hoping that they social distance it, but it's not just the social distancing. It's also like the stuff that they've done over Japan. Like, there's no concessions, there's no food, there's no drinks,
Not a lot of cheer. Yeah, there's no cheering in Japan, and they have to wear their masks. Like, it's very enforced.
Yeah, they're only allowed to come in at a certain point. They get released in sections. They're not allowed to cheer. They're not allowed to raise their voices. They have to. It's mandatory masks, even outdoors. Now, there've definitely been, there is it pretty much from every like proven report. This thing is highly non-transmittable outside, but when you have a large gathering of people in a small area, I assume that those, the risk level probably goes up quite a bit. And it's like with the distancing, that's fine, but I think masks should be mandatory, at least in this sort of instance specifically. You got a lot of people there traveling from all over the world. It just seems like that's the good precaution, that's the example that should be set there. But people are not going to follow it. Like, they just don't. Like, there isn't that social responsibility that people have in other countries where they feel like, I'm doing this to protect everybody. People here do it and they're like, I'm doing it begrudgingly because it's being forced on. Not everybody, but there's definitely an element of that amongst people where there's a large portion of the population like, I don't want to do this. I'm being forced to do it. So I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to cover my nose.
Right. Yeah.
Or I'm, or whatever, I saw someone put a post out the other day. They're like, someone came up to me and told me I should be wearing a mask, and I told them to fuck off or whatever. And I'm like, well, I mean, dude, you should, like, just do it, bro. Like, just do it. Like, what the fuck?
It's not that big of a deal, guys.
Yeah. So I don't know. So I'm not optimistic about Americans enjoying live events at all. I'm not optimistic about anything because look at how we have handled this pandemic. We are the laughingstock of the world. We've handled it worse than any other country. And I think that goes to show you that, the public guidelines that we didn't put into place, that other people put into place, that's the difference.
Right. And Florida has been one of the worst states in the U.S. And so.
Yeah, it's been terrible here.
It's been a crap show here. And so, yeah, both these weekends, WrestleMania weekend, Super Bowl weekend, it's probably going to be, another crap show and just more cases coming out of those weekends. Like you mentioned, people are going to die, unfortunately.
Thoughts? Dom Homie 101, he asked, thoughts on WWE's Peacock new partnership. Do you think that New Japan should go the same route with New Japan World that WWE did with their network?
So thoughts on the partnership with Peacock WWE? I think it's a smart move for WWE. They have been failing to hit the network goals. They somehow have finessed Peacock to give them $1 billion to get all their content, and now they can just fully be, just a content producers. They're not really going to be totally responsible for the numbers of Peacock subscribers. WWE fans, they're going to have to only pay $4.99 now for to get access to the network. So,
I mean, it's sort of a win-lose situation. If you wanted to pay less for this plus get the benefits of the new Peacock streaming service, then it's great for the consumer to a certain degree, now what entails with that? What will the new WWE network look like? Is it going to be everything that's already there, just kind of ported over, and then, whatever new content they end up adding, like pay-per-views, TV shows, these recap shows, shit like that, that's fine. But if you were someone like me who what they love about the network is, the archived shit and, the historical based shows and the old Coliseum videos getting uploaded and, hoping one day to watch all these older, promotions and episodes of shows that they had on there. You're probably never going to get that. Like, that's not going to be happening most likely in this incarnation. There's not going to be a lot of incentive to do that sort of thing. So, I mean, it is kind of a lose-lose because there's no incentive for them to continue to put into the product anymore. You know, like their grift is complete. They sold their shit off and they don't need to do anything else to it.
Yeah, from what I understand, everything that's on the network right now will be transferred over. But yeah, like you make a great point. They have recently been uploading like all these Progress and ICW shows and Evolve shows and all these old, network, promotion, territory stuff. They don't have no incentive to upload any more of that stuff if they don't want to.
I mean, they don't have a lot of incentive to do much because they're getting another. They've been renegotiating contracts for all these talents and telling them that they're tightening their belts, even though they prove that they're in their most marketable or most profitable phase of their existence ever in the middle of a pandemic. They're paying everybody less and renegotiating and yada yada yada. And then it turns out that they're getting another $1 billion that they've known about for a while because this has been in the works for who knows how long.
Yeah.
So like these guys are the ultimate grifters. Like they're not a pro wrestling company anymore. They're just
they're just content producers.
Yeah, they're content producers. And so I mean, in the thing is, this is the official. They're giving up on the WWE network. George Barrios and Michelle Wilson, this was kind of their dream, their baby. And I think it was a great product that was a little bit ahead of its time. The thing that killed it and the thing that probably made it an abject failure is them giving away every single pay-per-view for free along with the $9.99 because that completely changed their business model. That they lost untold millions, maybe even billions off of it. So them selling this thing off for $1 billion to Peacock for who knows however many years, that this is
5 years.
5 years?
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, I think ultimately Peacock is going to find out it's probably not going to be that much of a game changer for them. I don't know how many people are like, I really want to be able to watch The Office and I really want to see
The Fiend.
Superstars from 1992 or like, yeah, The Fiend. Like, now with New Japan, it's not the same thing. New Japan is basically, they don't own the majority of their product or their, footage is owned by TV Asahi, which already is a television, network company. So it's kind of a different situation. Plus streaming over in Japan it really hasn't ever caught on the way it has here in the States. I mean, I think there could definitely be some sort of possible distribution deal potentially, sort of like what like DAZN has done with Bellator or something like that, or BR Live and AEW. But I don't know that they can sell off their library because their library doesn't belong to them. It belongs to TV Asahi. So it's kind of a different situation altogether. I don't even think they have the means to do what WWE's done here.
Yeah. A lot more complicated of a situation, but if it were possible, then I would say yes. Obviously, if they're going to get handed $1 billion to do this, then that would be a great thing.
I would say, well, I mean, yeah, if it's just like short-term rights like that, then yeah.
So his next question says, with the young boy training to be a wrestler, will we ever see the young boy wrestle in a death match? LOL. Also, what are your guys' thoughts on death match wrestling?
I don't know, man. You guys might never see me wrestle a match. Most likely not. I mean, I'd probably just say no.
You don't want to.
If you did, it'd have to be really gimmicked. Like I'm not. Maybe a Street Fighter or hardcore match. I'm not doing no death matches. Like I'm not taking thumbtacks. I'm not doing shards of glass. Like I don't know. I've got a really, really good trainer. We come from a place with a lot of pedigree, and we don't really need those gimmicks to get over. Like, so probably not.
Yeah. Overall, I mean, I'm not the biggest death match guy. Like I don't mind hardcore matches, street fights, no DQ. But once you get into the light tube, exploding barbed wire, fire table stuff, it's like, all right, it's a little much.
I like it within reason. I mean, I like a lot of the like FMW Onita stuff, but not all of it. But some of it is really great. And every now and again, I'll hear about a Freedoms match or a like a CZW match from back in the day or something, GC dub, that's really good. And, you know, if there's a compelling story and, you know, the match is engrossing, then sure. But, like, I usually watch that stuff in a vacuum. I'm not too big of a fan of it because most of it's just shitty, to be honest with you. It's usually shitty guys that can't work, that are just there's no story. They're just hitting each other with stuff. There's no psychology. And it's a bunch of beard necks in the fucking crowd, like 12 or 13 guys that are, you know, acting like this is the most epic thing ever. And it's kind of shitty. Like, the whole thing is kind of masturbatory. Like, it sucks.
Yeah, and so you made a great point. You know, a guy like, you know, Matt Sydal is training you guys to actually, you know, get over and wrestle with actual wrestling moves and holds. Where, you know, a lot of not all deathmatch guys, but a lot of deathmatch guys don't have that wrestling background and just have to get over by hitting each other with stuff.
Yeah, bro. Plus, wrestling already hurts. I'm not trying to get hit.
Next question: who will be next in line a shot at the double gold? He's going with Suzuki, wrestling for it at Castle Attack.
That's not a bad call, actually. I mean, he's not doing anything right now, and he's a good challenger. You know, the only thing is Suzuki's already had like 7 title shots in his career and never won the title. This would be like 8. I think this put him right next to Goto for most all-time failed, you know, title shots. So, but yeah, that's not a bad way to go.
Yeah, Suzuki Bushi, we saw their match in G1. That would be a fire title match at Castle Attack.
I think Ibushi's a possibility. I think Naito's a possibility. Tanahashi's a possibility.
Yeah, I still think Ospreay's has a chance too.
Yeah, Ospreay's up there as well. Maybe Jeff Cobb.
Maybe, yeah, if he gets back in the country for that tour.
Yeah, I guess he's not there. Those would be my best guesses, I would say.
Yeah. He also asked, any way too early New Japan Cup favorites? I'm going with the Great O'Connor, Jeff Cobb, if Cobb returns to Japan.
I'd be surprised if either of them won the tournament before Will Ospreay did within the group. I mean, he's clearly the head of the table, if you will. So I don't know. I'm going with I think Ospreay makes the most sense as a first-time guy for that tournament.
And just based off how things are being booked right now, they're clearly trying to get him over. So I would think, just based off what's happening right now, Ospreay would make the most sense if he's not going to challenge at Castle Attack. How likely will we ever see an IWGP Heavyweight title match on New Japan Strong once this COVID situation hopefully goes away?
I mean, let's assume this TV deal with... If the reports that we've kind of heard are true, it's not going to be as exciting as people think it might be. But let's just assume it's a real... If they had a real TV deal in the States in front of a big crowd, then yeah, maybe it would make sense to do an IWGP title match here. But right now in that soundstage, no.
Yeah, no way are we seeing an IWGP double title match in an empty arena on Strong. Non-New Japan question. With the Royal Rumble coming up, what are your guys' favorite Rumble match, favorite Rumble match moment, and favorite Rumble pay-per-view?
Oh, man. I mean, the 92 Rumble is my favorite. My favorite moment probably has to be Maven drop kicking Undertaker over the top rope. Favorite pay-per-view? I mean, I don't know. Probably Royal Rumble 2000, the one with Triple H and Cactus Jack. I don't even know if any of those pay-per-views are especially good. I'm just saying that because I just like that match a lot. I don't know.
Favorite Rumble match? Probably, I know it's probably not going to be on a lot of people's list, but it's mine because it was the first one I ever went to was 95. I was 5 years old, and Shawn Michaels was my favorite wrestler. And he won.
That's like one of the worst ones.
I know, but I was there. Shawn was my guy as a kid. He won it from number one. And I popped. I remember just marking out so hard when he pushed over British Bulldog and got the win. Favorite Rumble match moment? I loved Shawn and Taker kind of having their little mini match. at the end of the Rumble. I think that was what, 06 or 07? Can't remember quite what year that was, but they had a little mini match there where the final two where Undertaker won. Favorite Rumble pay-per-view overall? I don't know. I think 2016 was a good year. 2014, I think, was another good year for Rumble pay-per-views. This next question, it says, it's time for fight question. So what are the young boys' thoughts on the UFC 257 main event? Where do Conor future in UFC look like? Any thoughts on the rumor? Separate question. So yeah, so thoughts on the UFC 257 main event and where you think Conor's going?
Yeah, the main event was really good. It was real surprising. I was not expecting Poirier to take Conor out in the second round. I guess my thinking was Conor was most dangerous in the first and second round, and if it got past that, I started leaning a lot more heavily towards Poirier. But man, those calf kicks are a killer. I mean, they are the new all the rage in the sport of MMA. I mean, if you don't have a defense for those, you're fucked at this point on an elite level. You gotta be checking kicks, and you gotta be checking those calf kicks. I mean, one or two land, and it changes the entire trajectory of the fight, and that's what we saw happen with Conor McGregor.
Yeah, I saw the fight also, and yeah, it was a great fight. I thought it was going to end in a second, but I thought it was going to be Conor putting away Poirier. But yeah, those calf kicks really were the end of Conor there. And
yeah, and I thought Conor looked really good. It might even be the best he's looked. I thought it was interesting, though. He kind of abandoned his karate style stance and went with a more traditional orthodox boxing stance. I don't know if that has to do with him bringing in his childhood boxing coach, but the style that he fought was definitely different than what he's done previously. He didn't take that side stance that he normally takes. That might have something to do with him getting kicked in the leg 25 times or 21 times, or whatever it was. But I mean, Poirier showed his durability. As far as what's next for Conor, I mean, he's got medical suspension for 6 months, so I mean, he's not going to fight this year. He says he's going to fight again, but I mean, it'd be late in the year if he does, and I mean, they're gonna have to change their negotiating tactics quite a bit. I mean, he'll probably have to take a tune-up fight for the first time in quite a while in his UFC career. I mean, most of his fights have been main events or dream matches, stuff like that. I know there's a lot of people that probably want him to fight Nick Diaz. Third Nick Diaz fight might make sense. I don't know.
Yeah, really interesting to see what happens of Conor going forward. He also asked, any thought on the rumor of the exhibition between Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao and Ryan chasing Clout Garcia? I hate to bring race into this, but it seems like another example of the no black fighter list. Also, what's up with this exhibition crap when both fighters are still active?
I actually just found out about what the no black fighter list even was. When I first read this, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, black fighters dominate boxing. Like, the most lucrative paid fighters in history were all, mostly black people, aside from like, Hispanics, like, Mexicans, things like that, Puerto Ricans. But, most of the big stars, Ali, Tyson, Mayweather, But what I found out, I did some researching, and apparently this has to do with Top Rank. This came out like in the not so recent past. They have a list of fighters that they don't want to fight, and oftentimes it's certain black fighters that they don't want many of their stars fighting because they don't want to lose and be made to look bad. So like, for instance, like there was a time where like Spence was going to fight, or maybe, I don't know who it was. Pacquiao. I think Pacquiao was going to fight Spence or one of the other big welterweights, and they pretty much put a kibosh on the whole thing. And I think Devin Haney is one of those guys that's sort of on that list that they don't really want Ryan Garcia fighting, and they don't want him fighting Tank Davis either. So as far as the fight, I mean, it kind of sucks because it's going to be an exhibition fight, and they're both active fighters. But Ryan Garcia is like 22. and he's a lightweight, and Manny Pacquiao's clear, at this point, a welterweight. I mean, in the old days, they probably would have met at a catch weight in a non-title dream match, but they're calling this an exhibition, which means it's not going to be a real fight, and they're going to expect people probably pay $70 a pop for it. It's kind of going to be bullshit. So, I mean, it makes sense in this from a certain standpoint because neither guy is risking anything, but at the same time, it's like I don't know. It just shows you like Ryan Garcia is a good fighter, but he might even be a great fighter, but he's not this phenom that can just go up to welterweight and smoke Manny the way Manny went up to welterweight and smoked Oscar De La Hoya, or the way Oscar went up and smoked Julio Cesar Chavez when he was young. Like and if Ryan Garcia could do that, maybe he could do that, but Top Rank and Manny Pacquiao are not going to sit around and find out if that's the case. So, I think there's probably some blame to be doled out all around, but it went from me being like, this is a cool thing to as soon as I found out it was an exhibition fight to being like, this is kind of bullshit, because I mean, if it's not a real fight, why would we pay to, I get it when it's Tyson and, Jones Jr., but why would I pay to watch two world champions not fight each other?
Right. And his last question here, he says, where does Tank Davis go from here? Any thoughts on the Charlo brothers? Also, check out the Angel Luo versus Stephen Fulton Jr. fight from last Saturday on Showtime.
I'll try to. With all the wrestling we watch and everything else, it gets busy. I heard that was a good fight. I don't know where Tank Davis goes from here. I mean, lightweight has a lot of, great contenders. There's Teofimo Lopez. There's Lomachenko. Freaking obviously, I mentioned Devin Haney earlier. So I mean, there's quite a few people he could fight. But I don't know what actually ends. And I mean, there's other people too that I haven't even mentioned. So I'm not sure really. Charlo brothers are great. I always get them mixed up because they're twins. One's at middleweight, one's at junior. I think that's good. It was really confusing when they're in the same weight class, so I don't know.
All right, well, that wraps up the questions. Let's do the recommended match of the week real quick. So last week it was Kojima versus Shibata from the G1 Climax 23, August 2nd, 2013. What do you think about this matchup?
Watch this match. I don't recall having seen it in 2013 when it happened. But this match was really, I mean, like, I don't know why it's not like stuck in my memory if I did see it, but this match was awesome, man. The whole time I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, like, why did Jeremy pick this? Because Shibata is kicking the shit out of Satoshi Kojima. I mean, literally just eating his lunch. I mean, and the match isn't long. It's like 11, 12 minutes, and it's almost, I mean, they start off brawling, they just run it like right from the get-go, strong style, forearms, but Shibata gets the better of the exchange pretty quick. They brawl on the outside. Shibata's winning most of those exchanges. Every now and again, Kojima will get a comeback or a cutoff, but Shibata pretty much comes right back, like right on, like off of that. And then suddenly, like right towards the tail end of the match, everything's going Shibata's way, and then suddenly it's just not. Kojima hits a lariat, picks him up, brainbuster, hits another lariat, 1, 2, 3, and just it's like this big burst that came from out of nowhere. And it's sort of like Shibata was, playing too much with Grumpy Man Kojima, not putting him away, and Kojima didn't respect that. So, he had to teach this young punk a lesson, and he just fucked him up. I thought this match was great.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, crowd was definitely behind Kojima in this match, and yeah, it was real good stuff. So what's the recommended match for this week?
Well, to close the show, my recommended match of the week is Big Van Vader versus Keiji Muto from the G1 Climax in 1991. Now, this is a match that you're not going to be able to find on New Japan World. But it's one of the most famous fan cam matches that are out there. You can find it very easily on YouTube, Dailymotion, I mean, pretty much everywhere. And this is pretty much regarded as the greatest match of Big Van Vader's New Japan career. So highly recommended. This is kind of one of those matches that made Keiji Muto a star. I know, Jeremy, I recommended the finals of this tournament probably a couple months back, the Chono Muto match. This is the semifinals from the night prior, and it's arguably the better match, possibly. Dave Meltzer gave it 5 stars at the time it happened, and so it's like one of those things. It's like it's a fan cam. Most of the time I wouldn't recommend a fan cam, but it's probably the greatest fan cam match of all time. So, and if you've never seen it, you definitely need to see it. So,
all right. Well, looking forward to checking that out.
I'm also recommending it because Keiji Muto is right on the cusp of winning that GHC title from Go Shiozaki. I think that shit's probably going to I think that's happening. I think he's going to win.
That's crazy. Well, that's going to wrap things up for this week of Keeping It Strong Style. Next week, we'll be back to review the new beginning in Nagoya. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate. Click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On Twitter, the show is at KI Strong Style. The network is at Social Suplex. Follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, facebook.com/socialsuplex. In the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group, we are facebook.com/group/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Instagram, we're at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy. Josh is Keeping It Strong Style. You can email me, jeremy@socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We have One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. The Ricky and Clyde Wrestling Show from Scotland. Grave Consequences with Caleb and Maserati. The 8-Bit Suplex with Josh Number 2 and Sandy. All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin, and Great Match Generator with Danny and Beast Mike. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Wear your mask.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.